the camera again. We're having a little bit of a technical difficulty there, my friend. The cold open is this. We have a full moon on Sunday that promises to change world history yet again. I was right last week. Wait till you find out what's happening this week. All that and more on Namaste Today Live. Oh. Hello, welcome to Namaste Today Live. I'm your host, Sensei Christopher Witecki, here at your service. It's so grateful to be here today. I'm actually streaming live myself from California. I'm on the road, and I'm happy to say hello. So please pay no attention to the minor glitches that are happening, mostly because we have been setting up here in a hotel, and we've had a few surprises. But we are live, we are streaming, and we are in the end of Cancer season, my friend. It's going to be a crazy week ahead. But first, let's say hi to everyone. I'm your host, psychic astrologer Christopher Witecki, Sensei Christopher Witecki, here to be your cosmic guide to personal ascension. We are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, X.com, and Instagram. And if you're in the super chat, hey, tell us where you're coming from and what your astrology sign is, and we'll say hello to you right now. Hello, Yocasta. Hello, Margot Melia. So nice to see you, Nina. It's great to see you in California. Cutie Bug, Cutie Slug, I'm not sure. Sydney, so nice to see you. Priscilla Love, Sandy D, Nikki Anderson, Miss Annie, someone in the Sacramento. Nope, I'm not in the Sacramento area. Sorry. I'm not going to reveal where I'm at, although it's a big population. Hello, Margie. Hello, Dr. Heba. That's cool. Hello, Sydney again. Hello. And we'll do one more. Hello to Illinois. It was Truan, it looks like, was the name. So nice to be a part of your life, everyone. If I'm looking up, it's because we have monitors that are up now. It's kind of funny how things are going. We are really happy to be here this week. There's so much going on, my friends. For one, we're going to have a radical full moon in Capricorn, while the sun's in Cancer. This radical full moon, ultimately, I believe is going to be a divorce. We'll talk about what kind of a divorce and where you may be divorcing. Then we have the sun opposing Pluto, which will be quite gnarly after the full moon. At 0 degrees, Pluto's at 0 degrees Aquarius. I find that to be an interesting shift that's going to happen. And then as we move on into the week, we move into Leo and we dive into our hearts. And at Serious Joy, we do the 40 days of self-love and ascension. It's going to be awesome. Hold on a second here. We are just scrambling for our notes. Here we go. Whoop. All right. And tonight, I'm really happy to have a return guest on ASTRO MINGLE. We are bringing back women's empowerment coach and speaker Britney Carmichael to the table. And this time, her husband, meditation coach and hypnotist and life coach, Christopher Carmichael. So the Carmichaels are here, and they're going to talk about their special couple retreat coming up later in the year. But first, let's take a look at the week's moods and your Zodiac weather. This Zodiac weather is from Saturday, July 20th to Friday, July 26th, 2024. Over the weekend, we're going to be wrapping up our Cancer emotional season, and then we are tested on Sunday, and we have a full moon in Capricorn. Let's drill down. On Saturday, it's sunny and grounded. Step 28 means the Earth rules the day, so it's sort of a Taurus Cancer sort of day. You are feeling abundant, and you're pushing the spiritual envelopes. The moon is in Capricorn, so you're making emotional decisions. Mars sextiles Neptune, which means ego and spirit align. And then Mars moves into Gemini, which means now we might be a bit more aggressive with our thinking. On Sunday, it's sunny and heated. Step 29 means Chiron rules the day. This is the final tested step of the Cancer season. That means you may be tested on any emotional lesson or family lesson that you learned in the last 30 days. The moon will apex full in Capricorn at step 29, which means people may divorce themselves from something in society. And the planets are chiming in with support. Venus sextiles Jupiter, the Sun trines Neptune, and Mars trines Pluto, all under the full moon. Moving ahead to the 5-day mood forecast, over the course of the next week, the Sun will be moving into Leo, which means our heart will now begin to open up and we'll begin to explore our inner child. On Monday, it's cloudy and detached. Step 0 means Pluto rules the day. This is the day where you may have to define new boundaries when it comes to loving yourself. And what you are loving is a little bit of space, calibrating where you belong. The moon has moved to Aquarius, the opposite sign of Leo, and so energetically, we are feeling a little detached on this first day. And to top it off, the sun opposes Pluto, which may mean a minor tug-of-war between personal boundaries and your heart. On Tuesday, it's sunny and dreamy. Step 1 means it's the Grandmaster I Love Day of the Leo season. You are to love yourself and try to think for your highest good. On this day, you'll probably reinterpret your relationship to your inner child or may have a major breakthrough with your heart. And the day closes with the moon moving into Pisces, so you begin a spiritual reflection after your dreamy self-love day. On Wednesday, it's sunny and compassionate. Step 2 means the moon rules the day, and the moon is in Pisces, which is the sign of compassion. This is a day where you may have to mourn some difficult times you've gone through over the last year, and you may have to forgive or forget some feelings that don't serve you. You could say you're emotionally maturing. On Thursday, it's sunny and motivated. Step 3 means Jupiter rules the day. This is a day where you will find yourself loving the process of learning and creating your way. Things get meticulous because Mercury moves into Virgo, and the sun sextiles Mars, meaning your heart and ego are on the same page. And then on Friday, it's sunny and assertive. Step 4 means Uranus rules the day. This is a day where you really got to rally around loving your growth, loving yourself on a higher level. The moon has moved into Aries, so we may not have as much patience with ourselves that we need. And lo and behold, Chiron stations retrograde today, which means the universe is giving us a little break from all the difficult healing we've been doing.
It's serious joy, joy, joy.
If you're watching on YouTube, please be kind and do subscribe to our YouTube channel, Serious Joy TV. Hit the bell button so you're notified. And if you don't mind, please like this video right now. Smash that like button so the YouTube algorithm will suggest us to other people who enjoy astrology. Namaste Today Live is sponsored by the 40 Days of Self-Love and Ascension. If you don't know, this is our most popular product at Serious Joy. It is a 40-day program. Came out, I think, about 4 or 5 years ago. The whole point of this program is that we start at Step 0 Leo, and every day we give you journal prompts. You just write in your journal, and you basically are exploring your relationship to your heart. And you're seeing through these journal days how different parts of your soul may ignore the heart, or maybe the heart goes too far. Who can go too far as a heart, right? Or perhaps you are ignoring the heart or not taking the heart's wishes seriously. So in 40 days, you will know exactly where you stand with your heart. But even more importantly than that, we want to talk about the fact that if you hold a heartfelt intention on day 0 and you hold it for 40 days, which brings us, it's really 42 days, we go to step 11 Virgo, you will see that manifest, or at least begin to manifest in your life. And we have stories, we have testimonials of people who've done this program. They found true love, they've healed wounds, they've purchased homes, they have manifested the job of their dreams. I can go on and on and on. And the thing is that Leo, now if you know my step system, Leo is 1, right? And Scorpio is 0, and a 10 makes I manifest. So the point is if you really focus on that 1 in the 10, you will manifest forward. It's 40 days. It's super simple. And this year we are actually upgrading it to the 40 days of self-love and ascension, because we realize some of our students have already learned the power of self-love, and now they're moving to the next chapter, which we call ascension, which is preparing yourself for higher vibration. I recommend you sign up as soon as possible. If you haven't been a subscriber to Serious Joy, you can get the first month for just $3.99. That means you'll get the entire program for less than $25. Visit SeriousJoy.com to find your heartstreams and make them come true for the 40 days of self-love and ascension. Begins July 22nd at Step 0. All right. And with that, it's time for our planets and transits. Whoops. I don't know where I just went. Okay, so this is a perfect example of what's happening here. My browser just went way over there. Like, well, friends, we are in an interesting moment right now. I mean, first of all, holy shit, someone took a shot at an old president, right? We had that. To me, I said last week, remember what I said? I said, tidal waves will shape history. I also said crystal cities will be born. I don't know if we saw those, but I'm taking credit for tidal waves will actually shape history. History was shaped, with that shot. And then, of course, we went into the Republican National Convention right thereafter. Of course, there's tons of talk about Biden and whatnot. And I personally think this is all due to Cancer and Capricorn. And we'll talk about that. But we have this weekend our second full moon in Capricorn. Now, let's just go back a little bit to give you the full story of what we can talk about as far as Capricorn and power. Pluto entered into Capricorn in 2009, I think 2010, actually 2009. And Pluto in Capricorn is a once every 249-year event. It means that power structures, that's Capricorn, must evolve. Pluto is revolution, evolution, and Capricorn is our power structures. Power structures being everything from what you decide, decisions you make, to leadership, to corporations, to governments, to even maybe the Galactic Federation has its rules, right? So the Capricorn consciousness is the consciousness that basically stores the law, the rules, and how we take power, all the ways we take power. Pluto moving into that, Pluto is also power, said in 2010, okay, Earth, you have got to evolve how you go about power. Now, what I noticed with that evolution was mostly exposure, which is a big part of what Pluto is. Pluto is the big secret teller. It is the secret holder and is a secret teller. And so I think that, we learned about how people cheat on their taxes. We learned about how, corporations like Amazon don't pay their taxes. We learned that presidents are immune when they're in office of liability. All those types of things that happened was us redesigning the Capricorn control energy. And it hasn't gone into place yet. What's happened is it's just been sort of disturbed. It's been sort of shaken up. When Pluto goes into Aquarius, Aquarius tells you where the power needs to go, up, okay? So all Pluto did in Capricorn was sort of tear up the pavement and get everything sort of revealed, get everything put on the plate as far as what we have to work on. Also pointed out all of our hazards going on our power and where we have power threats. We even had the end of Pluto and Capricorn, right when Pluto went Aquarius, Putin trying to move into Ukraine. Now, the reason why this is important is because we have one more act with Pluto and Capricorn. One more, all right? It happens on September 1st. Pluto will go back to 29 Capricorn, 29. 29 is the tested degree, which means all the laws and all the rules will be tested, okay? Whenever we have a 29 degree, things get tested. Keep that in mind for just a moment here. Pluto will move there on September 1st. But this weekend, on Sunday, the full moon that we have is at 29 degrees Capricorn. And not only is it at 29 degrees Capricorn, this is the second Capricorn full moon we've had in this particular season. We had one at 1 degree Capricorn, and we're having the second at 29 degrees Capricorn. It is my opinion as an astrologer that the 1 and the 29 is really God dissecting and cutting out the poor power structures, like pulling us out of those power structures from the beginning to the end. It's almost like we got sort of power neutered there with the 2 full moons. But what's interesting is Pluto going back to that moon in Capricorn on September 1st means that Pluto will activate whatever happens emotionally this weekend. So I have to say, you want to be careful, particularly on Sunday, as to what it is that you allow, how you allow your power to be taken from you, or how you stand in your power in society. Because 29 really has to do with our relationship to society, right? Like, for instance, I am a slave of the tax system. I have no choice but to be a taxpayer. I'm a slave. So we still have slavery in this country, right? We still have a lot of weird things where we are under the control of. I'm under the control of my insurance company. I can't buy the medicine I want to buy. I'm under the control of my state that tells me whether or not I can drive my car, whether or not I have a sticker. And I'm not saying be an anarchist. I'm just saying we don't even pay attention to how much embedded control there is going on until it starts to shake apart, which is what's about to happen. So in the big picture of things, it is now what's going to happen, I believe, is that we're going to make an emotional decision probably between now and next Tuesday. And that emotional decision is likely going to be ratified by Pluto on September 1st. So for instance, just as an example, let's say Putin wanted to move into Poland. I would say that he'll probably figure out that he wants to go into Poland on Sunday, and then he'll probably attack on September 1st or somewhere there around. So whatever it is you emotionally come to gets activated on September 1st. All right. Now, what's interesting is Pluto will move into Aquarius for the final time in our lifetime, I believe on November 22nd. It's somewhere between the 20th and 22nd. Don't have that at my fingertips right now, which means we are almost done. And what's going to happen is Pluto's going to just stay at 29. It doesn't go anywhere else. It just stays at 29 and tests all of our power, tests all of the laws, tests everything. In fact, again, like I mentioned earlier, the Trump case went all the way up to the Supreme Court and decided that presidents who are in office are not liable or held responsible for things that happen under their watch, right? That's a perfect example of how we have adjusted power. I believe what we're going to see is we're going to see a lot of the pollution, if you will, a lot of the corruption. We're going to see a lot of the lies. We're going to see a lot of the cheaters once Pluto goes into Capricorn. I think people who are cheating are going to mess something up and get exposed. I think they're going to slip on the ice and be shown out, as to what is really going on. Excuse me. So the point of this particular time now is actually your feelings, not your control, because Capricorn and Cancer are the opposite signs. And what really controls how you decide something is how you feel. Everyone at the end of the day goes with their feelings, right? You've probably done it yourself. It's like my mind says this, my ego wants this, my heart wishes for this, but I feel this is what's going to happen. I feel this is what's going to go down. And that's how it works with Cancer and Capricorn. Capricorn gets its cues from feelings. You don't want to make a decision unless you check your feelings to see if they resonate, all right? And the opposite is true too. When you are stuck in the high tides of emotion, it is a decision that gets you out of it. Capricorn is taking control. You have to take feelings sort of by the hands. You have to take them under your physical control. You have to, slowly start to nurture them and move them. By the way, this flashing gizmo is actually my microphone coming in and out of frame. So it is like Twilight Zone here. Do. Just so you know. So today, as we move into this, we are wrapping up. We are at step 27 today of Cancer, which means that the collective consciousness is ready to build an emotionally secure future. That's what the higher degrees of Cancer is. So I don't know what you've gone through in the last week. Whew, I've been through a lot. But it's my 12th house transit, though. I keep telling people that. They're probably sick of hearing it. My whole office is like, we know it's your 12th house transit. But so it's been wonky. Whenever you have a 12th house transit, it's kind of like, is it the 12th house transit? Is it the Cancer season? You don't quite know because stuff bubbles up. But the whole arc of this last week was that we wanted to find emotional security. That was the goal this whole week. And you might have been looking for emotional security in your plans with your husband, or you might have been looking for emotional security in your strategy for work, or you might be looking for emotional security just in your body, feeling strong. Maybe you went through an accident, you had to rehabilitate, and now you're just trying to feel emotionally secure there. But ultimately, we are on the path of emotional security. And tomorrow is step 28 with the moon already full in Capricorn. And so tomorrow is when you commit to what that emotional security is. All right. Then on Sunday, we have the full moon and we are tested basically by that full moon at 29 degrees. I should just say anything that you have done, let's say you have teenagers and you're trying to keep them from skipping out of school or sneaking out at night. Okay, let's just say. And so you're trying to keep them from taking their freedom too early, and you're trying to control their situation for their safety. On a full moon at 29 degrees, kids might sneak out again. They might try it again. You might realize, oh, I didn't lock the basement door. They got out there. Or you might realize, oh, Jesus, I didn't think about sleepovers. I should call and make sure she's actually there. So you'll be tested on some sort of control method that you have, but you'll also realize, kind of beta test, whether or not your emotional security plan is going to work, right? That I want to feel secure and this is how I'm going to feel secure. Will it even work? The full moon will sort of rattle the cages a little bit and reveal whether or not that is going to work. So moving on to Monday, okay, we kind of get our nest in order. Then we have a little bit of a test of the nest, right? Something sort of rattles a cage, sees that the big bad wolf is out there, whether or not they can heek enough and puff enough, right, to get us out of this tree. And then the sun dives into Leo. Now, this Leo season, I have to say, is going to be the most magical Leo season you have ever experienced in your life, in my opinion, because we have never been this ready for love in our entire lifetime. I say that from all the astrological transits that have been happening. Most importantly, Saturn at 19 degrees right now and Neptune at 29 degrees Pisces, that 10-29 degree orb there, which is a 10-degree orb, holding space for the new spiritual story. Saturn has cleared out all of our karma up to this. All of us have all had Pluto and Capricorn, so all of our control issues have had to be addressed, and that has been sort of stirred up as well. On top of this, Uranus is in the high degrees of Taurus at 26 degrees Taurus, which means that we are ready to manifest something larger than we've ever manifested in our life, right? So Leo is the yay energy. It's the heart. It's the inner child. It is our self-love in the first 10 days. It is our love for the world in the next. It's our love for others and things in our life in the next 10 days, the next decade. And then it is our love for the world in the third decade. So it's a tour of love, right? In the summer of love, might I add. Now, what's exciting about that is anytime we've gone through a Leo transit, we had other stuff bumming us out. We had our karma bumming us out, our self-sabotage, our ego was in Chiron's in the high degrees of Aries. So Chiron has healed the ego, Pluto's healed control issues, Saturn has healed karma issues. We've never been more cleaned down and clear as individuals, not a society, individuals in our entire life. So I think that when we go into Leo this year, I think we're going to just feel this hip, hip, hooray kind of energy and really start to get excited and fall in love with our plans for the future. Fall in love maybe with someone else. Fall in love with our life, the way we have it. And I'm already starting to see this, by the way, with people. I'm already starting to have it too, where my heart's just like, really excited to be alive. Like I've been really excited to be alive. Of course, Mercury and Venus are already in Leo, so we're already kind of got our fingers in that topic, but it's genuine. And I got to say, I didn't, after what I went through when I went off the air, I didn't ever think I was going to be this happy again, to be honest. I didn't think I was going to ever be happy again. It's so funny how life can take such dramatic swings, right? From left to right. So big picture, finish the nest. Okay, what is the appropriate emotional care that you need to bring the best out of you, to let your heart open up? And then as we go into Leo next week, self-love. Now, when we talk self-love, I want to go a little deeper. Like I said, we've renamed the 40 days of self-love to the 40 days of self-love and ascension. The reason for that is my research in spirituality shows that if I were to try to let's say I'd be lucky enough to coach Jesus. Okay, if I was lucky enough to coach Jesus back in Jesus' lifetime, I would say to him, the way to ascend is love. Love in your heart. I know it sounds too simple to be true. I know it sounds kind of hokey. Makes a really good Hallmark film. I get it. But it is kind of the way God designed the universe. Very simply, obvious, and in your face. Love itself. Now, people go to me, well, what is love? Love is a feeling. Love is experienced as a feeling. But love is also part of an action, all right? So the key to next week is, are you feeling the love? Feeling. If you're not feeling the love, there's no self-love there. I'm not saying in the big picture of things, you'll vote, yes, I love myself, right when you're entering the pearly gates when you die. Like, yes, I did love myself, official. when we're talking about energy, we're talking about having to actually feel it. So next week we go from step 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those 0 through 4 steps are basically the most critical steps around self-love. And I just want to say self-love brings the feeling of love. So let's use an example, for instance. Let's say you're going to night school and you fail your test. You fail some psychology test or something. And the test scores come back. And you know damn well you failed that test because you were out all night with the girls and doing tarot cards and talking shift. And you didn't study and you know it. So when you get that D- or whatever that is, how do you respond to yourself? Do you shame yourself? Do you make yourself feel bad? Do you try to push it away and do nothing about it? What do you do? That is the self-love piece right there. You want to be loving, and loving means being the sweetest, kindest, most gentle, patient, compassionate, determined energy you can to your own heart. So in a self-love world, you would basically say, I love you, Chris. It's okay. We failed. It's okay. We needed that night out with the girls. We needed to do tarot all night. And it's okay. I pay for those classes. I'm allowed to flunk them if I want to. That's a Taurus reasoning, by the way, but it works, right? So I'm saying this because as you go out into next week, your challenge, should you choose to accept it, is to raise the level of self-love in your life. Now, that is the ascension part, all right? What I learned was the secret formula to ascension is I love myself and I'll love myself some more. 11. I love myself and I'll love myself some more. It is 2 doses of love. Why 2? Because 1 usually repairs and completes. You need another dose to get you farther down the love chain. It can't just be enough to love yourself once. You have to always love yourself twice. That is the 40 days of self-love and ascension, that we're adding on this extra dose of love. Now, if you're like me, extra love feels weird. Like I have a hard time making myself finish my dessert, right? Because we come from the dark ages where all we did was go without. So, I'm not saying it's going to be, ironically, it's self-love, but it may not be comfortable. It may feel strange. And we'll talk about it in the 40 days of self-love. When you start that program on Monday, just realize it's on Monday, you'll begin to realize right away where your self-love quotient is right now and what can be done. And it's really incredible how people just wake up in one 40-day period, knowing their heart and knowing what they want to do. So that's the big picture. We are going, yes, why don't we play the ad, Adam, for that? Since I just plugged it really well, let's play the ad. That's a good idea. I see someone here has written, the love you withhold is the pain you carry lifetime after lifetime. I don't know if I agree with that, Connect Neo. Pain and love are similar. Pain is, pain is the opposite of love. Fear really is the opposite of love. And pain is sort of when love doesn't work and has been poisoned or toxined. But I believe the love in our heart is the accumulation of our joy, not the accumulation of our pain. Just something I'm just going to throw out there and say, what say you next? So let's talk about the upcoming week. Again, 40 days of self-love. Just let me promote it there. We'll go live on Monday. Sign up today. The whole community does it. Get a journal because we do this journaling. If you've done the program before, you haven't done the program before because we've added the and ascension. I have re-recorded every day and given new guidance. We are adding Kristen Ryder to the mix. She's doing special sound drops for the activation of the Merkaba sacred geometry. We also have Devin bringing in some special, are we bringing those in? Yeah, we will have written prayers to Archangel Ratziel to also help, because Ratziel helps with the heart. And of course, you'll have the whole community all doing it together. So this part of if you went to Unite the Light, it was like 40 days of self-love compacted in a weekend. You will just feel this joy because you're in this class that wants to love, and we all leave comments. It's a great time. You don't want to miss it. And by the way, we have lessened the journaling because people said it was a little bit hard in some of the cases. So I made it lighter. I made it easier and lighter for everyone. Just spread out over time. All right, so let's talk about the week ahead and the planets ahead. The theme of this week is a self-love revolution. A self-love revolution. This is a revolution in how we're going to love ourselves. And I have to say, I'm already in this revolution. And where I'm in the revolution, this is driving me crazy. Where I'm in the revolution is I'm not punishing myself anymore. I've had a few things happen, just little mistakes, little stupid mistakes at work, got sick, so I couldn't make a meeting. Just had like morning sickness, something weird going on, just little weird things. Normally my mind goes off on this tangent, like, oh, what are they going to think? I'm going to leave the company down, da-da-da-da. I'm going to disappoint people. People lose faith in me. That's always been my fear. They're going to lose faith in me, and we're not going to be able to do the mission. And this week, particularly in the last 2 days, I've said, you know what? Screw that. Screw it. I love you, Chris. Who cares? I'm not going to care about it anymore. Let's see if someone calls me on it. If someone doesn't call me on it, then it's not a thing. I'm not going to give any more energy. So to me, I'm seeing the self-love kick in there. So it's a self-love revolution. No matter what happens, we're going to take our self-love to a higher level. And no matter how good you are at self-love, you're not at the level of ascension yet. So nobody is high enough with the self-love. Literally, I think people are going to glow when this is over. I mean, have you ever seen yes, go to a wedding, you see that couple glowing, they're just glowing. Not always, not my Greek wedding, right? But in most cases, there's so much love in that event. People are just glowing. And that's what happens when you have revolutionized your self-love. Take it to a higher level. Go above and beyond to love yourself and be creative about it too. Love and creativity are very similar energies. They are really the same energy, but they're just experienced from a separate kind of perspective. And so being creative, by the way, is also a way to love yourself. When kids are playing, they're loving themselves. When artists are painting, they're loving themselves. When musicians are playing music, they're loving themselves. Anything creative, artistic is self-love. It counts as self-love. That just gave me an idea. I should actually, in the 40 days of self-love and ascension, I'm going to list some self-love activities that you may not be aware of. So the subplot of the week, or the tagline, is taking power back. Taking power back. And taking power back comes from the fact that this full moon in Capricorn is going to happen. And I think that's the taking power back. So I feel that we have all been some sort of hoodwinked into an emotional codependent relationship with something. For instance, who's going to be president? A lot of people seem to have their entire sanity built on who's going to be president. Like, for some reason, it affects them in their small house in Nebraska that much. And I think that's an unhealthy relationship we have with power, because I think in the last 249 years, since the last time Pluto was in Capricorn, I think we've had a lot of top-down reaches for power, all these top-down reaches. And so we've been told that we have to put government, whatever, TV, the news, into our smaller lives. So we have to incorporate them. And I think we all have a little bit of shell shock. I think we're all now, we bought that story that for some reason we can make a difference with that, or we have some sort of emotional responsibility, or we should be so upset at so-and-so for saying this. All of that is emotional manipulation. When we're told that we should cancel somebody because they don't go along with the latest trended things, that's emotional manipulation. You're being emotionally manipulated from some other organization to go their way. And the irony here is that humans really aren't very good at dealing with their emotions. So it's really easy, especially in America, because we have so low EQ in America, emotional intelligence, very little EQ collectively. I'm not saying individuals, but collectively, that we are easily manipulated. Now, I think that has changed. I think since COVID, I think we've begun to start to see, with just the scare tactics and the different things. We're starting to see now how we get emotionally manipulated, but we're not out of the woods yet. So we're taking our power back and we're saying, you know what? No, I don't care. I'm not going to go there. I say none of the above. I'm not going to let myself get worked up over, who ends up running the fire department, or get worked up over something someone said on a bad day. It's that sort of divorce, I think, that's happening. And I would imagine, I hope so, I hope not, that it could be some event that sort of exposes your emotional codependence with the world. And that event, could be embarrassing, could be weird, but undeniable. You won't be able to unsee it. And at that point, you'll know, okay, I cannot be emotionally codependent on this particular thing that I have that needs to happen. Now, the key question of the week is, what part of my energy does not belong? What part of my energy does not belong? All right. This is the Earth in Aquarius that I'm getting this from astrologically. As the sun moves into Leo, the Earth moves into Aquarius on Monday. And once the Earth's in Aquarius, we're going to be manifesting Earth, the energy, Aquarius, that we belong or do not belong in. So we basically create the energy of behind the love. So that's basically what it is. We create the energy behind the love. So behind the love is the energy of compassion, let's say. Behind the love is the energy of determination, right? Now, a lot of our lives have had the energy behind love being pain, trauma, drama, embarrassment, humiliation, behind the love. And we were loving to heal those things. But that energy behind the love wasn't propelling love to ascend to a higher and higher degree. Now, I think sometimes it's difficult to identify energy and then change it. But I don't think it's difficult in this first wave to identify energy that does not belong. And I'll give you an example. For instance, sometimes, I'll just say it right now. Sometimes in my own meeting, at my own company, I want to screw around and not pay attention. In my own meeting, in my own company, I want to screw around and not pay attention. I have to focus. You built this company. You're supposed to pay attention right now, right? So that is an energy, that comes up every now and then. I don't think it belongs. So that's something I'll say, you know what? I get it. You don't want to be in school. It's nice outside, but that energy doesn't belong in me because it throws me off. I don't pay attention in the meeting. I get up going sidetracked. It's not that I've done anything wrong. It's that I've indulged in an energy that ultimately corrupts what I'm trying to do. So the key word of the week is, what part of my energy does not belong? If you catch yourself in little moments of, like I just described, where you go into a funk, or, this happens with couples all the time. It's like, I'll literally see, if she says one thing about that, oh, I'm going to freak out. It's like this vibe energy that couples fall into a lot. Right. So the key question is, as you go through the week, ask yourself, what do I want to let go? Because I think by letting go of that, you'll empower your self-love. You'll empower your ability to love, because you didn't realize your own energy was taxing your heart. And the heart gets taxed a lot, basically, right? Because it's like, did you give, did you donate? Did you say thank you? The heart is always asked upon, right? So if we can take off those energies that don't belong, I think we'll be a lot farther. So looking at the week, we have two really chapters. The first chapter I already talked about is the wrap up of Cancer. Tomorrow is step 28. We manifest the new nest, the new home, the new foundation. On Sunday, we have the full moon in Cancer. Actually, let's back up for a second. On Saturday, Mars will sextile Neptune, and the significance of that is Mars is the ego and Neptune is spirit, and Mars will be at 29 degrees Taurus. So you may be worried about things falling apart. Oh my God, I just realized I've been worrying all day about stuff falling apart because I'm on this remote place. I'm like, oh, Mars is at 29, duh. But the point is that tomorrow or overnight, Mars is going to sextile Neptune at 29, which means that you're going to have to make some sort of a choice between your spiritual path and your ego's desire, particularly for abundance or your ego's desire to overindulge. So be careful about overindulging in the next couple of days, because Neptune will check Mars on that shift and pull it in. But tomorrow we hold space. Then Mars goes into Gemini. Now that's going to be interesting too. There's a lot to talk about this week. My goodness. Now that Mars is going into Gemini, things are going to get a little cray-cray, because the ego Mars is stirring the pot with the mind. All right, Gemini. And by the way, the ego and the mind are the most famous co-conspirators inside of our soul. They're always teaming up. So it's kind of like the mind will have a conversation with someone and be like, oh, they called me a pirate. And then the ego behind the mind will be like, oh, you're going to let them get away with calling you a pirate? So the ego is always provoking the mind, and the mind is always provoking the ego. And these two characters on our spiritual ship need to be put in their place. Mars going into Gemini means that we're going to be hyper stimulated in our mind from our ego. So it's going to take a lot of awareness to not say the wrong thing, to not say too much, to not tell them off. I mean, I think Mars in Gemini is going to create a lot of people saying things they can never take back. They can never unhear, unfortunately. And what that is probably God's work, because they're being, it's being exposed as far as, what's really going on with this person. And, perhaps we've been waiting for this person to get it. But I have a sensation that once we're in Leo, if you don't get it, you don't get it. I'm not saying for your whole life. I am saying until next year. I don't know if you remember, but looking at the planets, I realized that every year for 24 years, we have the ability to ascend from March till September. And if you don't ascend from March to September, you have to go back around to March and try again the next year. So the point is that, people are being kicked off of, being kicked off of the cruise ship or being kicked off of certain timelines because they're not ready. And I think Mars and Gemini is going to expose where the ego and mind are still being, still being little co-conspirators and causing trouble. And that starts tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow. So be careful. Tomorrow at 2:43 p.m. to be precise on the East Coast time. All right, then we have, of course, Sunday. And on Sunday, we have the full moon and the full moon apex. The full moon actually apex is very early in the morning at 4:17 in the morning. So here in the United States, most of us will be asleep, which means that the divorce will be a subconscious divorce because we're asleep. If you're awake during the apex, then you're having a conscious divorce. So it's different. That's always the case, by the way. The part of the world that's sleeping during the transit is doing it subconsciously if they're asleep. If they're awake during that time, it would be conscious, for the record. So this full moon on Sunday is the fireworks because, and I'll show you the chart of this too, because ultimately we have this full moon at 29 degrees Capricorn, and then we have also Neptune at 29 degrees Pisces. So it's a configuration of the full moon and Pisces. And I'll show you on the chart so you can sort of see it. The point is that if you don't fall apart on Sunday, and it doesn't fall apart on Sunday, you've graduated. And it really is, in my opinion, a whole new day. It's a whole new day in the sense that once we have our emotion, kind of think about it like this. It's like reincarnating. I talk about we're getting a second childhood. We're getting a new childhood. So if you can hold the ship together until Monday, you have given yourself a new childhood, a new foundation. And that's it. There's no more spiritual work like that to do. We then go into Leo where we celebrate. We come into our inner child. We start to create. We start to raise the stakes of what we're doing. So congratulations, by the way. I would say this weekend is the final weekend of the heavy, heavy personal work that we've been doing since the beginning of the year. It's been really tough. Thank you, Pamela. That's so sweet. So let's bring up the planets and let's start with Cancer, shall we? The sun is the only planet in Cancer and moves into Leo. He is at step 28 as we start the week, and we will end at 4 degrees Leo. Now, the importance of that is 4 degrees is a self-love revolution. Step 4 is the self-love revolution. That means when we come back next week, we'll be in a self-love revolution, which means I'll probably be wearing some sort of a fisherman's costume and a clown. I'm letting my inner child have everything it wants. I'm going to have a revolution here. We're taking over this town. And I recommend you do have a revolution. Look, you show up every week for yourself. You show up every week for this show. Take it higher this week. Take the self-love higher. Go out of your way. Post. Give me examples. I want to hear what you've done for self-love. Let's make it a contest. Who can love themselves the most? And really try to create that self-love revolution, because I do think it'll be infectious and it feels amazing and wonderful. So basically the sun, not a lot to say, except that we wrap up our emotional nest and we have a self. My mouse accidentally muted myself because it has no traction on this desk. I'm in the hotel. It has no traction because it's optical. All right. Let me find my notes here. Where are my notes? We're just gonna. Okay, I think I'm back. All right. This is a comedy, folks. This is an absolute comedy back here. Sorry. I've got this really sensitive equipment. If you bump it, it disconnects the camera. That's what just happened now. Pooey. All right. So what I was looking for is, I don't have my normal studio set up, so I'm going to really start thinking about how I travel, because it is kind of a pain not having everything you want, but I want to be able to travel. So let's move on now to Leo. In the Leo spectrum, we got a lot of shift going on. We have Mercury, Venus, and later the Sun. Now, what's interesting about this is each of these planets is actually stationed at a different decan of Leo. We have the Sun moving into the first part of Leo, which means that we are starting to love ourselves and love ourselves some more. So we're amping up the self-love. Then Venus from 10 to 19, that's literally the second decan. 10 to 19 is the second decan, chapter 2. We're opening up to a greater love in our life, now that we have our foundation is self-love. So when your foundation is self-love, then the love that you get from animals and the world and everything else goes up. When people say no one in the world loves me, I always say, because you don't. It's always a reflection. This conscious reality is just a video game that we're playing in heaven. And it is completely responding to how you behave and what you do. If you don't love yourself, no one else will either. Just the way it works. And people might say, oh, I do love myself. Because, if I put a gun to my head, yes, I love myself. But as I've said, loving yourself is not giving yourself a hard time for getting a bad grade on the essay. Loving yourself is not nagging yourself to do more work when you should really when it would feel better and be more loving to take a break. So really be conscious of that. But we're opening up to a life of love, which I've been feeling this week. Oh my goddess, I've been feeling this week. And then Mercury goes from 24 Leo to 1 Virgo, which means our mind calculates the future based on this. So let me try to give you this in perspective. I'm loving myself a whole bunch more, and I'm loving myself a whole bunch more. As a result, I can really open up to a life that's going to be amazing. Venus from 10 degrees 19. My heart goes, wow, if I love myself and I'm no longer my enemy, what could possibly go wrong, right? And then Mercury in the high degrees of Leo is saying, and that means the future can be this, and the world can be that, and the company can be this. So the mind's going to orchestrate that whole thing. Having some weird, I think it's Jupiter and Gemini. It's like making communication very I don't know, hyper aware. All right, let's move on to the moon. So the moon is full right now. It's moving up to its full status in Capricorn on Saturday and Sunday. So that means that we end, the Cancer transit very seriously. It means that you're going to emotionally divorce. The moon in Capricorn allows you to go cold. I know that, by the way, because my mom has a moon in Capricorn and she's a Cancer. My mom was born just before a full moon. My mom was probably born on a day like today, Friday, where the moon's about to go full in the next couple days. And, when we were kids, my mom would go from completely nurturing and like Betty Crocker mom to completely cold. She'd just go cold and we wouldn't feel her care at all. And it's not that she didn't care. It's that we just didn't feel it. She was off in some other place, in some other world. And I bring it up because, sorry, Mom, but now you know how that works for you. That's sort of, I think, what's going to happen. What happens is this weekend is you just go cold. You stop caring about certain things. That's the Capricorn moon. You stop caring. And once you stop caring, you stop giving it energy. Once you stop giving energy, you stop manifesting it, etc. So this weekend, you stop caring about things that probably aren't worth caring about anymore. And we have that full moon and you're tested on your care and all the things that I've already said. Then the moon goes into Aquarius Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, as the sun is in Leo. So we have the moon in Aquarius and the sun in Leo. And that whole dynamic is my heart wants this. Okay, then where do you belong? If your heart wants this, where do you belong? If your heart wants to do music for a living, where do you belong? It's not the middle of Kansas, I'll tell you that. If your heart wants to do music, you don't belong in that small town in Ohio. You belong in a music conservatory, or you belong on the road as a band member. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we start to go, what do I wish upon a star? Where does my heart belong? What do I want to do? What is appropriate for me? What's the right place? And these are the first 3 days of 40 days of self-love and ascension. So those are the most intense days. So we're going to have a really powerful program this year because it goes along with the astrology. And those first 3 days of the moon in Aquarius is going to be just such incredible fidelity and conscious dexterity as to how you can really get in there and understand how you tick. Then Tuesday night, Wednesday, and Thursday, the moon goes into Pisces. Now, this is a trip because I think what's going to happen is, I feel what's going to happen is that we're just going to have one of those realizations that life is changing and that we're not the same person we used to be and that we don't have the same problems we used to have. And maybe we should let go of things. Like maybe things just don't really matter anymore. So I really feel that the moon in Pisces for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is sort of a letting things go, forgiving the past, letting the old chapter go, and no longer allowing ourselves to be emotionally attached. Of course, the moon crosses Saturn, and Saturn will be at 18 degrees, by the way. Saturn goes from 19 to 18. So the moon crosses Saturn at 18 degrees. The significance of that is a spiritual change. So when the moon crosses Saturn, you're going to say, you know what? I'm not going to tolerate that. I'm going back to school or whatever. You're going to have this declaration, Saturn, of how you feel now as a result of your karmic learning, Pisces. And as a result, this just drives me crazy. Will you stop it? Just stop it. My God. It's like Casper the Friendly Ghost microphone. Then the moon will cross Neptune. And when it does that, I would imagine something really trippy is going to happen. So keep your eyes out for that. And then, of course, on Thursday, got too much. Yeah, I came back. Uh-oh. And then on Thursday, sorry, we lost our notes. Okay. Then on Thursday, the moon moves into Aries, Thursday and Friday. And at that point, you're going to be on fire because the self-love revolution is on Friday and the moon is in Aries. Are you kidding me? It's going to trine the sun. What that basically means is that energy is like people leaving their spouse because they have to love themselves and not tolerate anymore. People leaving bad jobs because they need to love themselves and not tolerate anymore. I know I keep using a lot of divorce examples, but that's where we are in the cycle. I think next year it'll be a lot of meeting people and hooking up and finding the right one. But I think because we're coming out of our karmic cycle this year, a lot of it is, that's not right for me. That's not right for me. That's not right for me. So the moon in Aries does really fire us up on Thursday and on Friday. All right, looking into Gemini. Now, this is a trip. You see that? Look at this right here. Mars, the instigator. Mars, the instigator, going into Gemini from 0 to 4 degrees. What's interesting is the Sun and Mars will both be at 4 degrees on Friday. So that's a double revolution. It's a revolution of the ego at 4. It's a revolution of the heart, the Sun at 4. And remember, when the Sun's in Leo, it's in pure form the entire month. There's no other sign that distorts it. The Sun rules Leo. So it's literally a heart revolution, Sun at 4 degrees Leo, and an ego revolution, Mars at 4 degrees Gemini. Ego revolution in the context of the mind. So a good way to look at this is, I wouldn't be surprised if you are like fighting with yourself the whole first of the week until you get to Friday and you realize, why am I my own enemy? Why am I being the problem for myself? Why is that necessary? But I wouldn't be surprised if your mind is just not in a good place. Keep going to the old ruts, because the universe needs to expose that you go here in your mind, that you do go to those places. I'm always amazed at how the mind, like a lot of people will say, people who are very kind, you bring up a certain topic and they suddenly go like really dark on you and start saying, curse words and talking shit about the person. You're like, whoa, where did that come from? It came from like Martian, Gemini energy that's been, angry and holding on. And so Mars going through this space sort of like disrupts all of that sort of stuff. Like, I'm sorry, get over being mad at the preacher from when you were 5, So a lot of things the mind can't let go of as part of that. But Mars and Gemini also, actually, I'm probably feeling Mars and Gemini. I feel like just sort of this extra push, like I have to rush is what I'm feeling. Like I have to rush, like somewhere I'm going to run out of time. Mars isn't there yet, but I can usually feel it within the orb. So Mars is in Gemini. Then Jupiter goes from 12 to 13 Gemini. First of all, 12 is a Grand Master degree. So that means that you are crafting beliefs right now that are going to stick with you for a long time, maybe the rest of your life. You're crafting new beliefs in your mind. At least for 18 years, it'll stay there. Go back, depending on how old you are, you can sort of see what sticks and what doesn't. But so we get this like core belief in your mind. You're going to have this core belief this week. It's like, yes, I believe I should leave the factory. I believe I should get a Tesla. I believe I should get a vacation home. I believe it. I believe this is the way to go. And then when Jupiter hits 13, which is Uranus energy, suddenly that belief takes off without you. So I think we're going to be dragged along sort of our requests. It's like, careful what you wish for, that kind of thing, once Jupiter hits 13. So it's sort of like, yes, the answer is you can have the job. You will be on television once a week. And here's your first bucket of fan mail, 13, like as a result of what happens with, something good happens at 12, but then 13 has a lot of surprises. So putting it in the simplest terms, I think our mind is going to really go through a lot this week. I think we're going to be very angry and temperamental with ourselves and very unforgiving with ourselves, which just brings up probably the moon in Pisces is going to be when we really start to feel that. So you're going to be processing how you're always angry and you're always bitter and your ego and your mind always team up against you and repeat what your father said, but only you playing their voice, or, you're going to catch your ego and mind into some sort of like conspiracy, basically, to get what it wants. And then at the same time, I think our mind's going to be blown by some sort of knowledge or innovation of knowledge with Jupiter. So it's going to be a mind-blowing week. We'll put it that way. Then moving on to Taurus. In Taurus, we have beautiful Mars at the beginning of the week at 29. I already talked about that. Where it'll sextile into Neptune, leaving good old Uranus behind. And Uranus is at step 26, which is a commitment to manifesting. So basically what God is saying is, whatever you've committed to a house, make it a mansion. You committed to a rowboat, make it a ferry. You've committed to a motorcycle, make it a car. And I don't know why I've named 3 vehicles there, but it seemed to work at the time. But ultimately, whatever it is you're manifesting, it's not quite enough. It's got to go higher. You're not including enough of everything that needs to be included. And that may be other people, or that might be, your customers you haven't thought about, or maybe you haven't thought about your suppliers. But Uranus at 26 says, hey, make a commitment, but be ready to re-sign that document tomorrow. or to rewrite that contract tomorrow. So be ready to innovate your commitments. All right. Looking at the TRT because we have nothing else. Moving on to Pisces. The big news in Pisces is that Saturn moves to 19 degrees on Monday. They're both retrograde. So we lose, what's interesting is we lose the 10-degree orb and we go to the 9-degree orb. So this is part of my step astrology book. I have a book called The United States of Awareness, and I talk about the orbs being a step number. And so the number between the planets right now, the difference is once it goes to 18, it'll be a 9-degree. From 29 to 18, it'll be a 9-degree orb, which means that God is basically going to be encouraging you to take action and move forward with what's necessary for your karma. When they were a 10-degree orb, we're just holding space, like one day I'll get there, one day it'll happen, one day it'll be possible. Now that it's at 9, it's basically saying this is the day, it's time. So we're getting a cue from the universe to move forward with our new timeline, which is usually described as one day inside of ourselves, and to go forward with that energetically. And that happens on Monday. So Saturn at 18 degrees Pisces on Monday might feel like a little kick in the pants to get stuff moving. Then we have, of course, Aquarius and Pluto. Pluto is at 0 degrees, but the big headline of the week is the sun will oppose Pluto. Now, the sun opposing Pluto is a quantum moment. And considering how much time I've already taken in the show, I don't think I have time to go into it in depth. But recognize that Pluto is the edge of the universe and the sun is the center of the universe. So our solar system anyway. So what that means is when the sun squares off with Pluto, it's sort of like the top and the bottom of reality are squaring off, right? That's what's happening, the top and the bottom. The sun is the love. Pluto is the space the love was made. The actual icon of the sun is Pluto's orbit with the sun in the center, a dot, right? So them squaring off on Sunday, happens on Sunday, right before the sun goes into its home sign, Leo. The sun sort of squares off with Pluto. And what that means literally is that you have to know what energy belongs and what energy doesn't belong in you. All right. And that's what Pluto is giving you the power to do. Don't bring your unhappy pants to the table. Leave your problems at the door. Don't project your stuff onto your family. That's all bad energy stuff. So Pluto is saying, hey, let's draw some boundaries around the bad energy and let's stop that already. Let's cut it out. It's not cool. The microphone is driving me crazy. Okay. All right. That said, we have one more, and that is Aries. So remember that 9-degree orb? Holy shit, the North Node's at 9 degrees. So with the North Node at 9 degrees and the South Node at 9 degrees Libra, we are getting a hell of a cue from the universe to get a move on the new you. The new you. It's time to get the new you on stage. It's time to get the new you in production. Whatever that might be, it's time for it to happen. Now, this means it's time to treat yourself. North Node at 9, that's a Grandmaster degree for Aries. It's time to treat yourself the way you deserve to be treated, all right, from yourself. That's not getting a mani and a pedi, by the way. Everyone's like, I got a mani and pedi. That's not enough. We're talking about when you open the car door, when you're cleaning out the trash. That's when you employ the new you. You put it into everything in your life. You put it into all the mundane. So the North Node is saying, hey, channel all this new you into the mundane, how you treat yourself into the mundane. And Chiron at 23, it's been there forever, but the headline is Chiron will retrograde on Friday when I come back on the air. It happens around 7:58 a.m. Chiron retrograde means that there's no more active healing to do at this time. Instead, you sort of fill in, and you sort of fill in where you were, what you couldn't get to. So when Chiron's direct, it's like, now heal this, now heal this, now heal this, now heal this. And when Chiron retrogrades, it's like, what did you learn? What did you learn? What did you learn? And then now heal this again, and then heal new stuff. So Chiron gives several passes over the healing. The fact that Chiron is retrograde means that God won't remind you during the retrograde that this is a sore spot for you. God won't remind you to be compassionate to yourself because it won't have some event that manifests. You have to fill in. So what happens with the planets is when they're direct, they're sort of like taking our cheek and having us look a different direction. That's what the planets do. They sort of force you to look over here, force you to look over there, right? They force you to look in different places. And then when they retrograde, they don't force you to look. So you either learn to look or don't. And that's basically opportunity school right there for how the planets work with people learning. So now that Chiron is going to retrograde next Friday, it means you have to look out for your healing. You have to look out for your trauma. You have to look out for your sore spots. And that's where you integrate the lesson into your life, because now you're becoming the authority by looking out for it. It also gives you the opportunity to make the old mistakes again. So it's all on you once it's retrograde. When it's direct, it's on God universe. When it's retrograde, it's on you. So interesting stuff there with Chiron. And Chiron basically stopped at step 23, which means that we now think the future might be okay. And I actually have experienced this. I will say that I was severely concerned about the future for a long time. And then I was didn't really feel like it would be a problem, but couldn't get out of my head. So even though I was like, no, that's probably not going to happen, but I can't stop thinking about it. But now as of April, that solar eclipse that hit Chiron, now I'm not worried. I'm like, nope, it's going to be the best future in the world. Earth is going to be amazing. It's going to be unicorns and rainbows. And there's a lot of reasons why I can say that, because I believe in multiple timelines and other things. So I don't have to have the president that I want to elected for me to have the world in the future that I want. But I do finally feel like, nope, no one's going to mess with me in the future. Future is bright, and so it is. No one can get in the way of it. And I think that is the work of Chiron up to step 23. All right, so I'd like to show some charts. Our TRT is 106, so we're doing okay. Here we go. Thank you. They changed this. Oh, okay. Don't give me empty thumbnail. Okay, there it is. There we go. Woo-wee. Okay, I think you'll get that in the backstage there, Adam. Yeah, I was asking for permissions and all sorts of stuff. I'm going to bring this here in front of me. Okay, so if you didn't hear in the open, super exciting stuff. We have Britney Carmichael back, and she's bringing now her husband, Chris Carmichael. So these two are just such a fun couple, and they are having their own retreat for couples. They'll be talking about that in ASTRO MINGLE. We'll be hanging out with them. I'm super excited. I love them both. They're dynamic. They're at Unite the Light, and you're going to see why they're so amazing. So let's look at some charts here. The first one is Mars entering into Gemini. So again, Mars enters into Gemini here. Look at a more there at 4. That's interesting. So, oh my God, that's very interesting. Okay, so I'm running the love asteroids with my daily transits because I find it interesting to see how love asteroids play into self-love and ascension. And since ascension is love, I realized the love planets are important to the ascension process. We should follow the asteroids is what I've realized. So a more at 4 is really interesting because that's a self-love revolution in the mind right there. That's a revolution in the mind. So Mars moving into Gemini, it's going to make things a little intense. Mars and Jupiter next to each other is like a thunderstorm. I do think we're going to see it. I think, the press and the media have actually been very tame, I would say, with the debates that Biden was on. I think they were tame with the way they handled the Trump assassination attempt. But I think once Mars goes into Gemini, they're going to misbehave. Just saying. I think they're going to be misbehaving. Then Mars will sextile here's Mars sextile Neptune. Actually, I had those backwards. I keep doing that every freaking week. But before Mars goes into Gemini, it does, as you can see here, Neptune, sextile Neptune. So Mars sort of ties our manifestations into our spiritual goal, and that's happening right now, Saturday, July 20th. The exact trine sextile happens tomorrow morning at 11:17 a.m. Then we said Mars goes into Gemini. Oh my goodness. And then on the 21st, there's so much that's happening, and I'm actually looking to see which comes first. This is 11 p.m. This is 4 p.m. This is 11:29 p.m. So that goes up here. Okay. And this is 3 a.m., of course. All right, so let's go back to the beginning of this. Thank you for your patience with me. Okay, so on 7/21, we have a bunch of things that happens. Actually, I don't think I showed the full moon. Let's show the full moon first. The full moon in Capricorn, that's the first thing I want to show. That happens at 6:17 a.m. Here's that full moon. Now, I didn't even tell you this yet, but the full moon conjuncts Pluto. That's the other reason why it's so potent and dangerous. It's literally got a cocktail of death in it, Pluto. And Pluto's at 0 degrees, the Grandmaster degree of Pluto. By the way, let's just take a moment to talk about what that means. Pluto went back to 0 a few days ago, and I felt it right away because what it's doing is giving you the power to say no. And you're going to find you can say no. If there's one key word for Pluto, it's no. No. You say 2-year-old, no, no, no. Pluto, Pluto, Pluto. So this moon conjunct Pluto, this is why I call it the divorce from codependence with society. The moon at 29 is the highest ranks of society, and Pluto is 0 degrees death. It's time to create new boundaries. And what's interesting is because Pluto's at 0, it's saying new boundaries for me in the context of we. New boundaries for me in the context of we. It's not just for me. It's also in the context of we. So an example of this, by the way, a lot of people say to me, I'm an empath, but whenever I go on in public, I'm overwhelmed by the energies and it shuts me down. And I'm like, those are poor boundaries, right? You're allowing the energy of the we to affect the me, all right? So this will be some sort of a stop doing that. And it might be a quiet full moon in the sense that at home, you just realize, okay, that's it. I'm not voting Democrat or Republican. I'm voting independent this time. You might just have this little silent stance with yourself looking in the mirror and go, that's it. I've changed my mind. It's never happening again. The last thing I want to put about this, look at this. Mars is at 0 at this moment of the full moon. Mars is at 0. Trining Pluto at 0. So that means it's a new day for the age of Aquarius. It's a new day for how we think. But wait, friends, there's more, because the sun later in the day will trine Neptune. The sun at 29 trines Neptune at 29. And this happens after the full moon. So the full moon goes, that's it, I'm getting divorced. And then at the end of the day, the sun trines into Neptune and goes, yep, that was fate all along now, wasn't it? We also have Venus sextile Jupiter on the same day. Venus at 12 degrees. I have a new belief about how loving my life can be. And Jupiter's, I have a new belief in my mind about how intelligent life can be or how cool it can be with the ideas or something like that. So we're just sort of coming to this full moon kind of like breaks down what's not working and puts us back together again like Humpty Dumpty also. All right, then the sun enters into Leo at 0 degrees Leo, right? And of course, the sun is opposing Pluto at 0 degrees Pluto, right? And we'll see that here in a minute. Mars trines Pluto. We already saw that. Here's the sun opposing Pluto, the exact time. So this will be this is a cosmic opposition in the sense that, like I said, it draws a line. And that opposition, I think, draws the line between the old fun and the new fun. Because I think all of Leo is about fun and enjoyment and creativity. And look where the other planets are. We have Venus and Vesta conjunct at 14. So we're opening up to a new idea about life. Mercury at 27 Leo. We're moving forward with sort of a dreams for life. So this is sort of like by the time your birthday comes, you know everything you want to get for your birthday because you've had Venus and Mercury working on the birthday gift list for a long time. So when we get to Leo, it's all mapped out already. There's nothing to learn. It's about accepting your heart and allowing and all those other things. But I don't think discovery is part of the process. We've discovered before. Then Mercury enters into Virgo. We just saw it. Look at this yacht it has at that last moment there. A yacht between Pluto and Saturn when Mercury enters into 0 Virgo. That's very interesting. It basically means that all these world changes are being routed into thinking and becoming, that we're becoming something different. Sun sextiles Mars. That's cool at 3 degrees. So the Sun and Mars ego. Here, let's look at this a little closer. Basically, our mind's ego and our heart's beliefs sort of come together. That's good. And then, boom, the week ends with Chiron stationing retrograde at step 23. Look at that. And the moon at that moment, this is the exact chart for the moment that it stations retrograde. So at that moment, which we believe is significant, you can read the chart. At that moment, the moon's at step 14 net 5, while Chiron's at 23 net 5. So it's a real, it's interesting. It's a real mind ego kind of connection, just like we have ego and mind here with Mars and Gemini. But that retrograde does mean that I think you get a little bit of a break. It's sort of like school's out for the summer kind of feeling. School's out for the summer. All right, and that's all I want to share for that. Okie dokie. All right, friends. Well, there's only one thing to talk about now, and that's you. I don't have some tea, so go get yourself some Gatorade, and let's have our Gatorade time. Hello, welcome back. We're going to go through the 12 signs and everything going on for them. I haven't been very active in the chat lately. It looks like people are having fun. Nice. Okay. So this week I'm going to keep it a little simple because I think we should focus on the basics. We're back to the basics. We're back to a good home, and we're back to loving ourselves properly. That's what we're back to. Those are the two elements that we've returned to. So the first thing I want to talk about is, for all 12 signs, I'll talk about the full moon in Cancer. Where are you building emotional security in your life? And where will you have an emotional divorce on Sunday? All right. Where are you building emotional security? And where will you have an emotional divorce on Sunday? All right. Then I'm going to talk about the Sun in Leo and what that's going to mean for you and how where your heart is learning self-love in your life. And then I'm going to talk about the Sun opposing Pluto and what that tug of war is for you for all 12 signs. And as always, I'll put to the side what sign I am talking about. I recommend you listen to your sun sign first and your rising sign second. Some people do like to listen to their moon. I think the moon is far more complicated and not as cut and dry, but you can definitely do that because the energy is the same energy as the same energy. All right. Starting with the Aries. Aries, you are basically creating emotional security in your life. As simple as that. You're trying to be more secure with all of your life. You are literally giving yourself a new home or a new foundation or a new mother. And, as we move into this final thing, it's time to manifest security tomorrow. And then on Sunday for the full moon, your security might be threatened. Now, the full moon of the divorce has to do with what you were emotionally tied to as a legacy. So I was really hoping that I would get the award and I would end up being there. It's like, that's an emotional attachment to an outcome that's not possible. So I think Aries are going to divorce from an unrealistic emotional expectation about future or career or other things. So I think they're going to detach from that expectancy. When the sun goes into Leo, it's all about self-love for the Aries. It is time to love yourself. I think one thing about you, Aries, is you tend to move straight into action and you don't spend enough time just feeling the love. So my advice to you is feel the love more. Take a moment and feel the love. Like let it come in, hold that love, because I think the old Aries was off to the races to prove or too busy to notice And I think the new Aries is mindful and aware of what their heart is telling them. Now, the opposition to Pluto means, just like we had with the full moon, these are two oppositions we're talking about. The opposition to Pluto is you have to really draw some boundaries about where you belong or don't belong. Either you don't do dishes or you do. Either you are this or you are not. And so the universe is saying it's time to really define what is your heart, what is your heart really wanting, and where should, you should let it go. The other aspect too is what part of your energy about society doesn't belong. What part of your energy about society doesn't belong? Like, oh, and every time I go outside, I'm like, oh, these stupid whatevers. I'm not going to say any political name, but again, that would be an energy that doesn't belong with you in the world. All right. So it's a couple of oppositions: emotional security and career, and the heart and where you belong. Taurus. This is quite true, actually. I love how I look at this and I'm like, oh yeah, that's so true. You are developing new emotional security with your attitude. So for me, it's no longer being a worrier. I used to worry. I used to, calculate all the things that could go wrong. And now I have this new attitude of like, nope, unless it actually happens, shut up. That's what I'm saying to myself. Don't say anything unless it actually happens. Because I think I've been creating it with my worry of it. Now, this emotional new attitude, it's an emotional attitude that will make you feel at ease. It's not actually your emotions. It's your attitude about emotion. You understand that? The full moon in Capricorn has to do with a life purpose that's not true. This brings a lot of things to mind when I say that. You are emotionally attached to some, you could say outcome. You could say you're emotionally attached to an outcome because that would be a life purpose. You have made this your purpose, this outcome. And whatever this attachment is to this purpose, it might have been to impress your neighbors. It might have been to show your parents that you aren't dumb. It might have been just to get wealthy. It's quite possible that not your whole purpose, but certain purposes are not true, and they simply don't resonate. So I think you're going to see Tauruses unsubscribing from certain belief structures or purposes with the full moon. The sun in Leo is about self-nurturing. Tauruses and Taurus risings are going to now, by the more you nurture your feelings, the more you think about your feelings are, what will it feel like? Is this a soft blanket? Is this going to be hard on me or easy on me? So you are learning now to nurture your feelings. And when the sun opposes Pluto, it has to do with self-discipline. So I already know what this one is already, where I have ignored my feelings in favor of self-discipline. So my self-discipline has walked all over my feelings. And so that's where my balance is. Yours might be somewhere else, but somewhere emotions are getting in the way of self-discipline, or self-discipline is getting in the way of emotions. Gemini. Gemini, you are finding emotional security with abundance. So you're going to suddenly feel abundant. You're going to suddenly feel like you got this and that you're going to be okay. And it may not be here yet, but you feel like it can be. And so you hold that space. Now, the full moon is transformation. So you are attached to transforming your life, or you are attached to not transforming your life. Okay. Part of you might be like, no, everything is fine the way it is. I don't want to change it. Why? Because you don't feel like changing it. And that means you have an emotional issue with transformation. But somewhere the full moon is going to say, hey, you're not going to be able to have all the abundance you want if you can't transform your life. You cannot have it in this form. If you could have had it, you would have, right? So if you haven't manifested in the current life form, this isn't the right life or right timeline for it. So I do think that's going to happen. With the sun in Leo, you now will elevate your self-talk. You're going to elevate the way you talk about yourself. You're going to add love to the way you talk about yourself. It's time for you to spin around and rewrite some of those words you use with yourself. Find more loving expressions of the words to use with yourself, okay? And that's what the self-love is about. You'll have a self-love internal intellectual revolution next Friday, where you might find a new word to describe yourself, or catch yourself in an argument, or catch yourself putting yourself down and pull yourself back out of it. Now, that self-talk has to be counterbalanced with self-belief. Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius says, Geminis have got to come from the presumption that they do believe. So you might have said, I might believe, I'll find out. That might have been your presumption. What the universe is saying is change that presumption to I do believe, let's verify. So you already believe and you go to verify versus I wonder if I'll believe. Okay, so it's time to bring that to the next level for the Geminis. And ultimately, when you hold that belief in its right place, then your self-talk has its own lane. And I think to some degree, your belief issues have gotten in the way of your self-talk. That's just one of the intruders in that conversation. All right. Cancer! Happy birthday, Cancer. Boy, it's been a tough one, hasn't it? My mom fell down the stairs and was hospitalized. It was a tough one. Cancers are actually in this emotional security. They want emotional security around their character. Cancers want to feel comfortable in their own skin. They want people to people to be comfortable around them. And so your emotional security is all in how you carry your character. You're extremely emotional and sensitive and easily triggered. But what's your character like, right? Just because you have that going on inside you doesn't mean that's how people see you. So you are crafting a new character of yourself. The full moon in Capricorn is literally a divorce. It's literally a divorce to a relationship. So this full moon is saying, you know what? There's Cancers out there who are still considering. They would still take him back if he showed up. Still. And it's time for that divorce. So Cancers are pulling away from a relationship that has all the evidence it needs to know that it's not right now, And if it's not right now, the planets are saying close the door. Close it. If it's not right now. They missed the bus already. They had to be here at this moment with you, in my humble opinion. Case by case example, though, if I can get a reading, we'll talk about it. All right. So there's this new character. And as a result, there's this divorce from poor partnership and holding the space for new good partnerships. Then we have the sun going to Leo, which is going to be a huge boost in self-worth. Cancers are going to feel so much better about themselves. And as you love yourself, you build self-worth, if you don't know. So the more a Cancer loves, the more you build that self-worth. So the self-love brings this new sense of worth and worthiness and deservedness, okay? And then the opposition to Pluto has to do with self-trust. So you have to nail down, do you trust yourself or not? Which is it? It can't be sometimes and on a random Tuesday. There has to be real clear rules, says Pluto, about when you trust yourself and when you don't trust yourself, and when you declare that. And what Pluto is saying is the fact that you're so wishy-washy on trusting yourself is why you can't be solid about valuing yourself. If you don't have the trust, the zero is trust. If you don't have the 0 and the trust, you'll never have the 0 and the 10. I manifest. You got to start with the first 0 and work your way to the next. So I do think self-worth and self-trust are right around the corner for the Cancers. Leos, come on down. Leos are creating new emotional security with God. And I, as a Leo rising, I'm doing that too. I've had a couple of things like, would God like that? And I was like, of course he would. He likes everything, basically, because it's all cool thing, something he hasn't thought of or something he hasn't experienced. So Leos are going to really, I think, feel this new connection to God. It could be the old school connection, which is I'm the king or I'm the queen, so therefore God likes me better than everyone else. Maybe that's it. But I don't feel so. I feel there's a real profound wake-up call, divine intervention, something like that. Now, that has to be counterbalanced with the full moon in Capricorn, which has to do with lifestyle. Ultimately, you must divorce yourself from a specific lifestyle, Leo. There's something in your lifestyle that's not going to work going forward. It's just apples and oranges, or actually electricity and water. They just don't go together anymore. So you're going to have to divorce certain lifestyle habits. Okay, that's where you're divorcing. Smoking would be a lifestyle habit that you might have to divorce. Just as one clean example that most people wouldn't argue with, right? So there is that divorce going on. Now, when the sun goes into Leo, happy birthday, it's all about self-treatment. And so the way you treat yourself is directly proportionate to how much you love yourself, okay? So if you make a mistake, love yourself. If you don't pull off what you wanted, love yourself. If you almost got there but couldn't finish, love yourself. You're just supposed to love yourself, period. So in self-treatment, love yourself. Now, the opposition to Pluto has to do with your mirage boundaries. And mirage boundaries are basically like you either are or you aren't going to put yourself through that. You either are or you aren't going to put yourself through it. Are you or not? It's a yes or no question. It's a Pluto question, yes or no. So once you know you're not going to put yourself through it with Pluto, then the Sun in Leo on the opposite side of that says, okay, well, now I know what I can do to love myself because I know what not to do anymore. So I feel that, because this opposition happens at the beginning of the week, basically, the whole Leo season is populated with this declaration of where the boundary is for you. And ultimately, your mirage vows to yourself. All right. Virgos. Virgos are getting a new emotional security about their social reputation. They're finding a new home in the world, a new home in the office, a new home, in the community. And they're feeling strong about that home. That home might be the number one, baseball team in the district. That home might be the number one Avon salesperson. Whatever it is, it's here for you to fit in and enjoy. The full moon in Capricorn says that you have some personal dream that probably doesn't serve the new home. It's a personal dream that you crafted when you had nothing. You hadn't really thought about it. It was just something to, that your heart wanted. But as you have aged and come into your wisdom, you may no longer really want that in your heart. And maybe you're just leaving on the list because you want to get everything you could possibly get. All right. So basically, it's time to let go of a personal dream that's not realistic or not in the cards in the moment. I'm not saying let go of all your personal dreams. I think everyone listening to this right now knows exactly what I'm talking about. Virgos, keep it on board because they don't want to throw it away. They don't want to remake it. They don't want to get rid of it either. So they end up doing it this way. Now, the Sun in Leo has to do with faith. And faith is, of course, a feeling. But when you're a Virgo, the feeling of faith is self-love. So if a Virgo loves himself, they have automatic faith. Isn't that amazing? And the contrary is true. If you don't love yourself, then fear will eat you alive. Okay? So you have to love yourself. You have no choice, Virgo. And I can't think of any Virgos I know that love themselves very well. Sorry. I haven't seen one. Maybe it's happening. And by the way, I said love yourself really well. Yes, you pulled yourself out of the gutter. You pulled yourself out of that bad marriage. But then you stopped as soon as you got to your mother's, right? So that's part of it. Now, that inner faith of loving yourself opposes Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius, which means that you also have to hold space for your health and how you live in the moment. So what Pluto is saying is, you're never going to have faith if you can't feel calm right here in your body, if you can't feel good in your body, if you can't trust your relationship to your body, there's no way in hell you're having any kind of faith issues. So what Pluto is saying is you've got to really be on top of your health and with yourself if you're going to expect to have faith, ultimately, right? All right. I think we did a good job there with Virgos. Libras. Libras are finding a new emotional home for their legacy. So they're feeling better. They're trying to feel better now about the future and to feel safe about the future and feel safe about their career plans and feel safe about where they're going, with their parent as a parent or as a leader. And that's where you're ultimately going to feel good at the end, is about that legacy item. The full moon is around emotional security and home. So the full moon says is Libras have some sort of emotional attachment to the home, to the family, to a literal home, maybe to your home that you grew up in, your childhood home, but you have some sort of attachment there. And it's time now to let it go, right? No longer expect yourself. Maybe it's from the childhood that you thought your home had to be that way. Maybe it's that you thought you had to be a good girl for your parents. Maybe you had emotional attachment to where you had to have a perfect home out in the country. But whatever it is, the universe says it's actually going to hold back your capacity to have this new legacy and this new career direction. So Let go of those unrealistic expectations about family or home. Now, the sun going into Leo is social belonging. Did you know if you're a Libra, you only belong what you love the most? Did you know if you're a Libra, you're only supposed to go to your favorite places? You're never supposed to go to places that aren't your favorite? Did you know that? It's because you have Leo in the house of society. You're meant to love everything about your social life. And so you're bringing love back into your belonging. And it starts with whether or not you belong in your heart right now. So you could say the first 4 or 5 days of self-love is you not letting the world talk you out of it. You not letting other people interfere with it. Because you've been this people pleaser sign for I don't know how many centuries, constantly giving stuff up all the time. Basically what the planets are saying is stop giving stuff up. Make sure you get what you want and where you belong. Now that opposition that goes to Pluto has to do with self-love. So what the universe is saying is there's no way that you're going to find where you belong in the world if you don't actively love yourself and lock it in like a vault, like a bank vault. It's just not going to happen unless you do. So I'm in Pacific time right now. So I'm like, I just had a panic at the time. I'm like, it's a whole hour earlier. So ultimately, just to wrap up Libras, because it's pretty clear and important here, is across some very sensitive boards, you're going to build a new emotional nest for your career. You're going to let go of some sort of a codependency you have with your family. You're going to realize that you do belong in society, but you'll only know where you belong if you've locked in that self-love. Scorpios. Scorpios are holding an emotional nest for their new life purpose. So they have recently upgraded their terms and conditions to life. And they're saying that life must now be this. It must have this new purpose. It may have had the purpose in the past, but it wasn't emotionally supported. Okay. It was put down, picked up, put down, picked up, put down, picked up. This is emotionally supported. All right. So that's a good thing. The cool thing about the full moon is it's going to help you shake off a really bad attitude. Okay. So you have this new purpose. Like my purpose is to be a teacher. My purpose is to change the world. And my purpose is to go on vacation for the rest of my life. Okay. And that's okay. But if you do that, you're going to have to get rid of or divorce yourself from some attitude you have about society. That's right. Society. Scorpios have lots of attitudes about society. I know I have Scorpios all around me. Okay. And so your mind is just attached to some idea about how the way the world works. And the truth of the matter is you're attached to the way the world used to work. It's no longer going to work that way anymore. So you're actually upset about the old China, not the new one. All right. So look for that in that full moon to let go of some attitude, prejudice, maybe even a control thing. Like maybe you haven't been like letting yourself talk to certain people and you've been controlling where information flows, and God's going, no, full moon, you cannot control where information goes. Let it proliferate the way it wants to. Now, the sun going into Leo for you is self-discipline. Did you know your house of career is ruled by love? Do you know what that means? That means Scorpios should never be in a job that they don't love, ever. If you're a Scorpio watching this and you're in a job that you don't love, you are not on the new train. Sorry, you're not. And if you thought you were supposed to compromise, nope, you cannot compromise and ascend. Ascension is about energy going out and overwhelming. Compromise is about cutting off yourself, fracturing yourself into little pieces. So Scorpios must now, this comes down to self-discipline. All self-discipline for yourself must be loving. It must be loving. Sweetheart, would you take out the garbage? It'd be really nice of you to do that. That's a self-loving self-discipline. Now, Pluto in Aquarius says, for that to happen, to have loving self-discipline, you have got to create some rules around where feelings will or won't go. So basically what Pluto is saying is Scorpios cannot follow their heart unless they get some control over their emotions. Usually anger, but there's other emotions too, sadness, other things that Scorpios may fall into. So the opposition says you really got to get strong with your emotions if you're going to follow your heart in your career. Sagittariuses. Sages are holding emotional space for a life transformation. I'm happy to say I know one Sag that this is happening for. I'm going to see another good friend that's a Sag of mine here in the next couple of days. So I'll come back next week with more information, with new intel. But in essence, your life's about to change big time, Sag. Kiss all your neighbors. You're going somewhere else. You're doing something else. I think because it's opposing money, let's talk about now. It opposes money. So Sages have some sort of emotional attachment to wealth. Now, that emotional attachment to wealth may be the way you get your wealth, like you're attached to being a firefighter, but you know you can't climb burning ladders much longer, right? So you have some sort of attachment to a way of making money, and that's what the full moon is. You're going to divorce yourself from that way of making money. You say, oh, that's it. I don't have to make my money that way. I'm going to let go. And that is you opting out of the matrix, by the way. Now, the sun in Leo has to do with self-belief. And you see this in Sagittarius already. Like when Sagittarius is like, did you know that it's only 40 calories for this? And you see their eyes light up and they get all excited. It's because they love knowledge. They have Leo in the 9th house. They love knowledge. Wherever Leo is what you love as a sign. Taurus has it in emotions. We love emotion, but that's true. We're very emotional. That's why we're so, what's the word? Materialistic, because we're trying to control the emotions, right? But we're talking about you right now. You must love what you believe about yourself. You must love the story you tell yourself. You must love the words you use to tell that story. It must be all love for it to actually work, all right? And if it's not, you're going to find that you don't really believe and you're not strong. Now, opposing that self-love in beliefs, like loving everything you believe about yourself, is self-talk. Pluto at 0 Aquarius says there needs to be some base rules on what you're allowed to say and not allowed to say to yourself. And until there's some base rules on what you say or don't say, you're not going to be able to believe and love yourself unconditionally. You're not going to be able to follow your path of wisdom and adventure because your mind is just being a troublemaker and just jumping all over the map and finding all sorts of like pew, 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 like reasons for why you're not, why you can't believe this. And see, I told you not to have faith in it and all that sort of thing. So locking down that smart ass in the mind to not speak up in class, I think is the key to really being in love with what you believe about you. By the way, it could also be a belief about a certain knowledge, like you love astrology or you love tarot, but pull it back this first week to what you believe in yourself, okay? Because you get caught up with the big knowledge. Pay attention to small knowledge too, stuff about you. Capricorns! Capricorns are holding emotional space for a new marriage and a new policy to marriage and a new approach to marriage, a new approach to relationships. So they're really going to nurture, they're really getting involved in some emotionally connected relationships right now. And the Capricorns I know they are. I've noticed it. I don't want to out any of my Capricorn friends, but definitely happening. So it's time to really create that nest for that perfect marriage or that perfect partnership. And by the way, partnership can include, obviously business partnerships, we're on the dance team together. It's everything, the whole 9 yards. But in essence, that's what you're doing. You're holding for this new partnership that you're going to have. Now, what opposes this is you are emotionally attached to some sort of ego power move. Do you hear me? You have an emotional attachment to an ego power move. All right. That could be like the death switch you're going to pull if something happens. It could be, I don't know. I know Capricorn examples. I know a lot of Capricorns like being in power. And when you say, well, you're not really active on that committee, why don't you step down? Oh no, I'm stepping down. Emotionally attached to the power, but not really to the group or whatever they do. So be looking for in this full moon where you have been just holding on the power. And I'll just tell you right now, God, universe will give you the new way. It's just you're going about the old way. Everyone still gets to be empowered in the new era, but we just don't do it from totalitarianism, starvation, taxes. We use all these tools for power. We're not going to use them anymore. All right. Now, the sun in Leo is self-trust. Self-trust. And self-trust is love. So did you know if you don't love yourself, you can't trust yourself, Capricorn? Because love and trust go like this. When you trust someone, you love them. When you love someone, you trust them. That's the way you're wired. All right. And maybe that's what keeps you from loving people because you don't trust them. And maybe that keeps you from trusting people because you don't love them. So you don't trust them. but you have to find a way, says the planets. Now, ultimately, this self-trust is counterbalanced by Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius with self-worth. If you don't insist that you're worthy, you'll never trust yourself. You must first insist that you are worthy. You must insist that you're having, I'm not talking about how much you can earn. I'm talking about how much you deserve. Do you deserve a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance? What do you deserve? That is what has to be locked in a vault with Pluto at 0 degrees and taken to a new level for you to be able to trust yourself in the future. All right. Aquarius. Aquarius. Oh, wait. Are we in Sagittarius? Oh, no. Oh, there it is. This is Aquarius. Sorry. We had a thing dropping, blocking the graphics there. So it looks like the end of Sagittarius. That's so funny. Aquarius. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so you're holding emotional space for a new lifestyle. Aquariuses now need to live a different life than they have lived before. I think I know a lot of Aquariuses where it's all fun and no work. I know a lot of Aquariuses where it's all work and no fun. So I feel like you're creating a new lifestyle that has all the things you like in it, and make sure it's well balanced too. But when you have a nice life, you come from a good life. You know, the two cats in the yard. Life used to be so hard. When life is really feeling good, then everything can bloom for Aquariuses. Now, the full moon in Capricorn, this is going to be funny, is an attachment to a God complex. Aquariuses have a God complex. You know you do. You're emotionally attached to it. It's your God, not my God. You say it's your God, right? There's the attachment. When you walk into a church and you say, they don't know anything, I know how the universe works. That's an emotional connection to a power, some sort of a power grab around religion. And so Aquariuses do have power grabs around beliefs. And the truth is it's not your trademark. You know what I mean? Like, you're magical magicians. The spirituality actually is Pisces department, if you want to be honest. So you're going to find that you have some sort of God complex. And that God complex may be something like, I didn't let the girls go because I was too afraid something bad would happen. It's just like, well, while you're playing God with the kids, like, let them go to the park. So sometimes it's something very, very small, but you'll see what it is. And it'll be undeniable when it happens. Now, the sun in Leo is all around your mirage. And so self-love for you is a mirage. Self-love for you must be tied around everything inside your soul. Everything must be woven together in your mirage of self-love. All right. And if you really love yourself and you make a whole policy of loving yourself, everything in your mirage, how you approach yourself at work, how you approach yourself at home, how you approach yourself with family, how you approach yourself is your mirage. It's how you come at it from the beginning. It must now be self-love for you to ascend and go to the next level. Pluto in your sign, however, says that you have got to make some rules about how you treat yourself. And how you treat yourself, by the way, is what you say to yourself. Do you ghost yourself when you make a mistake? Do you make it harder for yourself? Do you punish yourself? You've got to come down with some solid policies around self-treatment. These have to be laws in the land. Once those are written, then you'll find that it's much easier. It's much easier to treat yourself really well. Okay. And it's much easier to live into those mirage vows. If you say to yourself, okay, I'm never going to do that again to myself ever again, then it's like, okay, I can make a vow to be healthy because I said never again with this. So this is a powerful moment for Aquariuses because Pluto's just going to keep moving up to the house of mirage, and you're going to transform your entire life and all the frequencies of your life through how you relate to others. This is just the beginning, and it's quite compelling. Pisces. Instead of "and the Pisces." Pisces, you are holding emotional space for a personal dream. So it's time to create a home for your dream. A home for your dream might be something like your artist studio, your drummer studio. It could be an office where you write. It could just be that every time you think about it, it feels warm and fuzzy, and you just keep it feeling warm and fuzzy when you think about it. Okay. But you are creating basically the emotional nest for your dreams to come true. Very exciting. Now, the full moon in Capricorn is that you have some sort of emotional attachment to being in charge or the boss in society. being the one in control, being the one who calls the shots, being the one who's most senior at the job. You have some sort of emotional attachment to your social reputation, basically the labels that are on your shirt. And what the astrology is saying is you could mess up your personal dreams if you don't let go of that expectation to always be the boss, because we need you to be a boss over here now, and you're insisting on being the boss over there. So I think there's some interesting things going on there. Now, the sun in Leo is health and stress. The way a Pisces loves themselves is they take care of their health. That's it. You've got the easiest job, by the way. I wish I had that to be mine. I have to have a Pisces rising. That would have done it. But ultimately, if you just take care of your health, and by the way, health is also being stress-free. A lot of people don't realize that being in stress is unhealthy. It's very unhealthy to be stressful all day. You just sit there and worry all day? Seriously? That causes stuff like cancer. You can't do that. So loving yourself is nutrition, sleep, balance, work-life balance, pretty environments that you work in, inspired situations that come to you in life. That is going to be a good, healthy life. Now, Pluto in Aquarius says you have got to lock down. Do you or do you not have faith in yourself? Which is it? Do you have faith or not? Pluto's asking for a yes or no answer. There's not a yes, but. No. Either you do or you don't. And Pluto at 0 says you have got to decide to have faith. Because if you don't decide to have faith, you're never going to work the stress out of your body. You're never going to be healthy because you're constantly not, worried and not having faith. Either you have faith or you're not. God's calling you on the bet. It's time to put your money down where it counts, Pisces. Bet on your inner faith. Your health will be amazing. Hold emotional space for your personal dream and let go of that bossy job in society. Because frankly, for the Pisces, y'all are on a spiritual mission. And we're going to see a lot from Pisces once Saturn leaves your sign next year. You're almost done. A lot of construction. It's been fascinating. Alrighty, that is our tea time, folks. We are going to take a little break, and we're going to play the commercial that I'm sure Adam is playing that too. So we're going to do the Zodiac weather. We're going to do the commercial for 4 days of self-love and ascension. And I will be back with the Carmichaels. Keep streaming. We'll be right back. This Zodiac weather is from Saturday, July 20th to Friday, July 26th, 2024. Over the weekend, we're going to be wrapping up our Cancer emotional season, and then we are tested on Sunday, and we have a full moon in Capricorn. Let's drill down. On Saturday, it's sunny and grounded. Step 28 means the Earth rules the day, so it's sort of a Taurus Cancer sort of day. You are feeling abundant, and you're pushing the spiritual envelope. The moon is in Capricorn, so you're making emotional decisions. Mars sextiles Neptune, which means ego and spirit align. And then Mars moves into Gemini, which means now we might be a bit more aggressive with our thinking. On Sunday, it's sunny and heated. Step 29 means Chiron rules the day. This is the final tested step of the Cancer season. That means you may be tested on any emotional lesson or family lesson that you learned in the last 30 days. The moon will apex full in Capricorn at step 29, which means people may divorce themselves from something in society. And the planets are chiming in with support. Venus sextiles Jupiter, the Sun trines Neptune, and Mars trines Pluto, all under the full moon. Moving ahead to the 5-day mood forecast, over the course of the next week, the Sun will be moving into Leo, which means our heart will now begin to open up and we'll begin to explore our inner child. On Monday, it's cloudy and detached. Step 0 means Pluto rules the day. This is the day where you may have to define new boundaries when it comes to loving yourself. And what you are loving is a little bit of space, calibrating where you belong. The moon has moved to Aquarius, the opposite sign of Leo, and so energetically, we are feeling a little detached on this first day. And to top it off, the Sun opposes Pluto, which may mean a minor tug-of-war between personal boundaries and your heart. On Tuesday, it's sunny and dreamy. Step 1 means it's the Grandmaster I Love Day of the Leo season. You are to love yourself and try to think for your highest good. On this day, you'll probably reinterpret your relationship to your inner child or may have a major breakthrough with your heart. And the day closes with the moon moving into Pisces, so you begin a spiritual reflection after your dreamy self-love day. On Wednesday, it's sunny and compassionate. Step 2 means the moon rules the day, and the moon is in Pisces, which is the sign of compassion. This is a day where you may have to mourn some difficult times you've gone through over the last year, and you may have to forgive or forget some feelings that don't serve you. You could say you're emotionally maturing. On Thursday, it's sunny and motivated. Step 3 means Jupiter rules the day. This is a day where you will find yourself loving the process of learning and creating your way. Things get meticulous because Mercury moves into Virgo, and the Sun sextiles Mars, meaning your heart and ego are on the same page. And then on Friday, it's sunny and assertive. Step 4 means Uranus rules the day. This is a day where you really got to rally around loving your growth, loving yourself on a higher level. The moon has moved into Aries, so we may not have as much patience with ourselves that we need. And lo and behold, Chiron stations retrograde today, which means the universe is giving us a little break from all the difficult healing we've been doing.
It's serious joy, joy, joy.
Audio Jungle.
Alrighty, welcome to ASTRO Mingle, the spiritual podcast that mingles with the brilliantly bright light workers and innovative influencers of our time. We have been talking this year a lot about the return to the divine feminine, and we had Brittney Carmichael on earlier this year. She's phenomenal. Well, it turns out she's also married to a phenomenal person as well, and the two of them are teaming up. So we are happy to announce a two-guest situation tonight. The first time we ever had two guests on Astro Mingle. And we think it's really quite appropriate, frankly, because this is the summer of love. And I think a lot of us dream about what it would be like if we had a partner that actually got it. So this is going to be a phenomenal show. Please welcome Britney Carmichael and her husband, Christopher Carmichael. And we'll talk more about what they do when they come on. Welcome aboard. Come. Hello.
Hi.
Oh, that's not going to work.
Oh my goodness, we're
There
gonna
we go.
is it really close to each other?
Nose to nose.
I'll just sit in your lap. I mean, it feels appropriate for tonight.
How are you two?
We are doing pretty well. We're hanging in there. You've talked so much about how everything is shifting in the world, and we're like called out over here. So much has changed. Even from the time we had our chat back in January, we got to meet in person multiple times this year. And I feel like I'm a different person talking to you. And you said that in January, that Libra's lives would look totally different by the end of this year. And well, we have an empty apartment behind us. This is our last night in our home after 6 years. Our dog had to cross the Rainbow Bridge yesterday. So when you ask how we are, normally I would say, fuck yeah. But today it's just kind of like,
fuck.
We're here at that.
Usually fuck yeah, now it's fuck.
Yeah, now it's just But, you know, we're just so grateful to be here. And in fact, being on Astro Mingle is the highlight of this whole experience. And, you know, finding that balance of when you go through life simultaneously, good and sad things happen. And that's just a part of the balance. So we're all right. We're hanging in there, but we're excited to be here.
Well, I'm curious. I don't want to dig into a sore subject, but you are light workers. I mean, what are you telling yourself when you lose a pet? I mean, what is an enlightened way of handling that? I know you're not an expert, but you have ideas.
Well, being a psychic helps a lot in the death transition and having many years of being able to communicate with past loved ones. So having a pet cross is honestly easier than a person because they don't get caught up in the messaging across the board. They know exactly how to communicate from the moment that they're about to leave to the time that they cross over. So I feel like
it seems like it's always what you focus on. Now, everything is about what you focus on. And the second that you feel yourself going down that that horrible route, what are you focused on? Are you focused on the loss? Are you thinking in the future? Are you remembering too much of the past and dwelling there? And the second that you breathe deep a few times and you just remember, like, I'm right here. Like, life is happening right here. I don't have to go anywhere else. I don't have to make up illusions in my head. I just have to be right here. And the second that you do that, like, all that pain and sadness just kind of settles. And you realize, like, we are so, as human beings, meant to endure. Like, we're just such powerful things.
We are.
Or we've had to come just to get to this moment right here. We've had to survive. And it's
Saturn and Pisces over here. I'm like, till February? Oh, come on. Aren't we done with these lessons?
I feel like we are. And what you just saw there from Chris was some of his brilliance there, coming as a life coach. Chris, tell us, you have a lot of hats. And I didn't know which one to lead with in the intro, so I just thought I'd let you all introduce yourself on this one since we've already had Brittney here. What is it that you do?
Forever I've been just dramatically interested in watching other people succeed. And so whatever that modality took on, that's what I always did. And so whatever my clients have needed, or friends or family members
or wife,
anything. And so I've always been that nerdy kid. I've always been, let's read a book a week kind of guy. And so I have way too much information floating around in my head. And so my mom asked me one time, called me out like my mom always does. And she said, what's the use of all that crap in your head if you're not going to help anybody with it? And I was like, oh, okay, Mom. And so it was that moment. She's like, why don't you start reaching out to people? Why don't you find people who are in need and like start to help them? And so Mom and Britt always pushing me forward.
Get on social media.
I'm Aquarius.
Says the Libra.
I'd be fine with just, hanging out in the room and reading all day. But it's that thing, it's that drive. When you find someone who's hurting, or when you find someone who has a really beautiful gift, but they have no idea how to share it, or they don't believe enough in themselves. And so that every time they meet a person, they're constantly sitting there just, it's not for me. I can't tell them. I can't share this. I can't be that person for them. And it's bullshit. Because the second somebody needs help, show up to help them. I mean, if your tire went flat, if someone pulled up and they weren't dressed the way that you expected and they didn't speak, would you care? I don't care. I wouldn't care what was happening. So the second that you're able to help, like, that's the moment. That's the calling. We're like, I'm just waiting for my calling here. There's so many people in the world that need help, and it's up to us, especially this community, to start to show that and say, hey, I'm that person. So my mom said, hey, why don't you step up and be that person?
Yeah. So unofficially, we are the founders of the Elevated Life. For the last 20 years that we've been together, we have been on a mission to transform our life through healing and mindset shifts that have created these radical transformations in our life. And so many people have watched us lose 175 pounds collectively. They've watched us go from Britney we were going to change our last name to Heartless in 2010.
What?
Yeah, like to who we are today is like a complete night and day experience. So many of our clients in my life and our friends were asking, how do we do this? And they would come over with journals and notebooks. And so the Elevated Life was born 10 years ago in teaching these simple mindset shifts that can radically transform your life.
And the Elevated Life, since we went there, let's knock it out of the park for a sale. What exactly is it? It's a podcast? It's a school?
So
it's a everything.
Yeah. The Elevated Life was born because someone came over and said, hey, I don't want to read every book. I don't want to figure out all the stuff. Just tell me what you know and I'll pay you every month. And I was like, this is such a weird thing. And so Elevated Life was born as a way to just like harmonize all the techniques. Like, what are the ways? Like, what are the ways to fall in love with yourself? What are the ways to become successful? Because we can't just be good at one thing. Life's not just about getting in shape or just one thing singularly. It's about, there's this whole experience out there. And so our breadth of knowledge has to be a whole experience. You can't just focus on one little bitty thing.
Yeah. So it started as a live show on YouTube, just like we are here. And that transformed into a podcast in 2020 because things were shifting. And we created a monthly membership club where we teach every single month live. And we also teach yoga, breathwork, and meditation. And all of that kind of set the foundation for, we need to teach this in a retreat setting style. And it started with my women's goddess retreats that then turned into, why is my wife different? How did she get there? I want to go. How can I sign up? So that's what ultimately led to the Evolved Couples Retreat. So it's been an interesting journey. 18 years ago, I said, we're supposed to work together, but honestly, you sucked at doing hair. He just mastered the ponytail. Like, we just got it.
It's harder than it looks.
So when we knew that we were supposed to work together, we never knew exactly what that looked like until the Elevated Life was born.
What happened 18 years ago? What was that? What's that benchmark?
Oh, yeah. 18 years ago is when we met. He was a real estate tycoon and I was opening my hair salon. And so we were just on two seemingly different paths, but we had one common thing. And that was we both had a deep desire for transformation. And that's ultimately what's been the basis of our relationship. In fact, one of our first date, we sat in the car and talked for hours. We didn't go anywhere or do anything. And he just said to me in that moment, which it didn't, maybe 10 years later, it clicked. He said to me on our first date, he said, I believe that true love is investing in another's spiritual growth.
Whoa.
At that time, I was like, okay, cool.
Everyone watching just had their jaw drop right now.
So
that's like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So you can see why I proposed to him twice, even though he said no, and then he said maybe, and I just never gave up on this Aquarian.
Were you the final one to propose?
I was, yeah.
It was, yeah, okay, yeah. For me, I'm like, that's the dude's job, man. I don't mean to be sexist, but I'm romantic that way.
Well,
but I think it's sexy that she did it.
When you have multiple failed marriages, for parent examples, and you vow to never get married and never have children, then there's a thick wall. I mean, Aquarians already have the wall, so there's a pretty thick wall that you have to break down when there's a lot of childhood trauma. So I was willing to be courageous enough to take a step out of my feminine power, which is funny. You talk about the rise of it now, which is like total reverse. I'm like, do all the things. Thank you. It's great. So I knew at that time I had to take a courageous stand and kind of like proclaim my love from have the marching band behind me and be like, I'm for real. Like, I'm not going anywhere. Abandonment wounds, get out of here.
Beautiful. She had like the jam box outside and she was playing to the.
She's a force. I mean, if for anyone who's been around, if you see her on here, if you've been in person, like Britt is such a force.
Oh, she is.
When she decides something's happening, it's just happening. So you just eventually get behind it,
And you married her.
Yes.
So smart.
It's funny because we were just talking about it recently, and the fact that Britt brings so much color into my typically black and white world.
Yeah.
It's so inspiring to be around her. And she brings out all the gifts that I didn't know that I had. And she always is putting me into people and conversations where I can shine really well. And it's just it's one of those things as a partner, it's so cool to have that. You see so many people who, when they get around their friends, they talk bad about their partner. They complain about what's going on.
Yeah.
It's so sad. It's so sad to watch those kind of people. Like she takes so much interest in my life, and I did the exact same for her. And it's just like, how as a team can we just succeed more? Like, how can we put more into each other and just get more out of life?
I love it. Well, 18 years ago, by the way, was the last time the South Node was in Libra. It was also when I started my career. I went on YouTube 18 years ago and did my first Soul Horoscopes video horoscope. And the reason I bring it up again is because we're now at this is the next lap, whatever that is. Literally, this is the next lap. And what's interesting is because you're a Libra, it means for you, Brittney, leaving behind certain ego associations and attaching to new ego associations, like identifying as things. Do you see that happening now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm letting go of my hair salon after 20 years and
wow,
to just psychic ability, coach, empowerment, healer, all the fun woo-woo things that, 10 years ago when I changed my bio to psychic, medium, and Chris was hypnotist, people were like, unfollow, what is this? We're going so now that you can come out of the spiritual closet and shine your authentic light and not be hung or burned or criticized you'll probably still get that a little bit, but now we know who we are because our ego has shifted into Pisces rising. I have faith.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's interesting. Chris, first of all, what's your step number in Aquarius?
19.
19. Okay. So manifester. my first question is, did you feel Pluto going to Aquarius? I'm just curious because you're such a hyper aware person of energy. Pluto dipped in last year for like a couple minutes and then it came in February in Aquarius.
Absolutely.
How did it shift for you? I'm curious.
I feel like there's just something that happens that where you sort of wake up to yourself and you're realizing maybe I'm not doing things exactly the way they should be. Maybe there's something more inside of me that I need to be bringing out. Maybe I'm not tapping into sort of that power that we all know that we have inside of us. And it was a moment to take a look and say, am I doing all the right things that I need to be doing? Am I showing up as the person that I need to be? Am I showing up as the person that other people, need me to be? And it was a check. It was like hey friend, Are you doing it right? And it was a moment for me to like reconsider what my life was about and where I want to be putting more of my effort, more of my energy. It's been definitely lately so much more double. I spend a lot of time helping Britt with a lot of her businesses. And I mean, we travel, we do all sorts of stuff. Man, it's been so much more in this last year of me beginning to really double down on hypnosis, because I've gotten so many requests at this point, because hypnosis has been something that we've been using for so long. And like Britt said, years ago, it's one of those things I had to keep under wrap. I had to call myself a life coach because people would freak out if I said hypnotist. Like, that's what I'm going to use to help you. Like, hypnosis is just a body of technique. It's not like something that's scary. It's something where it's already natural. We're already doing it all the time anyways. And so it's so cool now to be able to actually talk about it, to say, hey, I'm a hypnotist. People are like, oh my gosh, I know what that is. I've heard about that. I want to try it. It's interesting. I've heard that it can help for me. And it's just one of those things that, you know, paying more attention to serious joy, because Britt found you. It definitely wasn't me. I just
looped him in because I put it on speaker and blast it every morning when I'm doing my tarot cards. And I'm like, we're in the same room. You just got to listen.
And of course, me being so curious, I'm like, what is he talking about? And suddenly I'm like, holy, all this is right. Like, everything that's happening is like, it's so spot on. And so I've been listening with Britt for
like 4 years.
Yeah, for forever now. And so it's so much easier.
So do the self-love and ascension. That's why
It's
we're
huge.
on the show, y'all. Like, hello, like, not because we did it, but because I love myself and I love myself some more. Like, hello, and that attracts the opportunities.
Yeah, it makes it so much easier to get in tune with yourself. Because just like we follow the seasons, just like you know winter's coming, you know how summer's going to be. It's the same thing like that. As soon as you see those planets moving, it's like, now I can do something about it. Now is my time to shine.
Well, before you jump in, Sensei, I feel like from my outside perspective and how has it shifted for him, Chris has been the behind the scenes. Let me pump you up. Let's make everyone else famous. Let me do all the celebrities that are in Hollywood and be there behind the scenes hypnotist where you'll never hear Chris's name. And what has changed is that I have built him a website. He's got a social media and he's on this mission of like, okay, I've accepted that I'm going to come out of this like cocoon of my own wisdom and magic and share it with the world. And that's why he's been working so hard over the last like 6 months on creating a hypnosis certification to teach the 25 years of knowledge that he's acquired in the hypnosis realm. So that's what I see the big shift is you're finally going to share it with the world and not just do it, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's true for a lot of Aquariuses. I put that out there. Like, I think a lot of Aquariuses were literally in the closet about their magic or powers. Some of them more bizarre than yours. Explain for us. I mean, when I heard hypnotist, I always thought like the jokester on the stage making people cluck like chickens.
Me too.
I didn't even realize that you could use it for medicine for a long time. I mean, I knew like quit smoking or things like that. But how did you stumble upon it, first of all? And where are you seeing where are you using it to change things spiritually?
Okay, so I got into hypnosis because my dad and his friends were big in the nightclub business when I was a kid.
Oh, so it was the chicken.
Yeah. And so that means that my mom, my stepmoms were for the most part strippers. And
oh, wow.
What comes along with that is typically low self-esteem. That normally happens. You normally get some sort of drug abuse. It's either going to be alcoholism or worse.
Yep.
And so because of that, I went with a lot of them to AA meetings. And so from age 9 to about 12, I sat in an AA meeting pretty much every single day with them.
Holy moly.
Everybody's stories. I got so curious about what made people tick, why some people would relapse, why things would happen, because I saw them doing it too. And I'm thinking, can I help? Back again to that same, how can I help people? What can I figure out?
Yeah, you identify the patterns where people are stuck in a loop.
Yeah. So what ended up happening years later, it wasn't then as like an 11-year-old, I'm like, hey, let me solve your problems for you. So when I was 17, I'm standing in a library reading, of course. And I'm reading this health magazine, and the health magazine starts to show all of the different modalities for helping people recover. And so it starts talking about talk therapy, starts talking about behavioral therapy, and like what the percentage success rates are for talk therapy. It's like 30% after 300 sessions, which to me sounded horrible. AA success rate at the time was pretty horrible. And it did all these. And at the end, it said hypnosis, 93% success rate after 6 sessions.
Wow.
And I thought, why do we even have the other stuff? We should take the other stuff and pick it up and throw it in the garbage or light it on fire, take it behind the barn. Because I'm thinking, here are people, if you've ever been around a person who has an intense drug addiction, And especially when they're great people, especially when they're just really loving, people, salt of the earth, just beautiful souls. And you're just watching them tear their life apart. I mean, like how I felt as a young kid, like how big my heart just swelled in those rooms, listening to people ruin their lives and ruin their marriages and ruin their work, their careers and everything. And I've now stumbled into a study in a health magazine that tells me hypnosis is the way. And I was like, I'm gonna start reading. I'm just gonna start reading every single thing I can find on hypnosis. And that's what I did. And I started picking up clients who were alcoholics. I started doing that immediately, especially family members. I started with that immediately. And so it was just like, holy smokes, I didn't consider it a profession though. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. Right. And telling people I'm a hypnotist, I was interested in making money. Like I didn't know any millionaire hypnotist. So I'm like, I can't be that. So I went into real estate. And then I got in a bad motorcycle accident and like just totaled me for a while. And it was then again, I was like, I've got to start picking this back up because that's what gave me, it wasn't chasing the money. Tell me, what is it?
Hold it. On our like first month of dating, he was like, hey, can I hypnotize you? I was like, sure, that sounds awesome. So I'm thinking I'm going to be like quacking like a duck. I was pumped for that. I was like, proof, like, let's see. So he has me close my eyes and counts down from 10 and da, 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 da. And I don't know what he said because I'm still here, but he said something obviously. And I remember opening my eyes after he was done and he goes, well, how do you feel? I said, totally relaxed, but I don't feel like it worked. And he's like, why not? I was like, I don't know. Like, I didn't like quack like a duck or do anything. And he was like, well, that's stage hypnosis. I do transforming therapy. Like it's about mind and body relaxation so that you can put your subconscious in a state that is receptive to change and new ideas. And I was like, okay, well, that was fun. And we never talked about it again. And in 2012, we had a near-death experience, which I brought up in our last Astro Mingle. And in that experience, I went to go see a psychic because I'm like, my intuition's talking to me. What the heck is going on in my life? This is 2012. And it was so accurate. She told me that I was a psychic and I needed tarot cards. And it was just, it all rang true. So I brought this one along and she looked at him the first second he sat down, she looked at him and said, you need to get back into hypnosis, specifically past life regression. And that's what started everything. And our paths kind of crossed in the spiritual world where we realized that you could use hypnosis in metaphysical healing, chakra clearing, talking to past loved ones. And I was on this like mediumship quest of developing my skills. So we were able to blend those together.
Yeah, and it's a big thing again. So Britt lost her biological dad during this time. And so I've been doing hypnosis and getting just phenomenal results. And she comes to me and she's all teary-eyed. And we'd been in a float tank and she comes out of the float tank, she's crying. And I'm thinking she got Epsom salt in her eyes. And I'm like, well, how am I, this eye's gonna sting. And I'm like, what's wrong, babe? What is wrong? And she goes, I just talked to my dad. I'm like, oh, cool. He called you. That's great. She goes, no, like I talked to him in the tank, like he's dead. And I talked to him and he came to me. I want you to help me with hypnosis, talk to him more. Yeah. And honestly,
yeah, he said one thing to me. He said, hey, baby girl, I had to pass in the physical world so I could guide you from the spiritual world. He was not a father. He was not a present father in my life. And so the fact that he showed up after he died, I was like, well, where have you been, bro? Like besides jail. So it was an interesting guide for me to be able to learn how to trust the other side and tap into that skill and know that I'm not crazy, because that's always the first sign of psychics is, do you think you're crazy? I mean, there is crazy, there's cray, and then there's like, you're not crazy, you're just intuitive.
I think we use the word crazy, but we don't really mean it, but we also mean not normal.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. Whereas like, am I crazy? So Chris, how do you feel? What do you feel is going on? Because I don't necessarily trust psychology at all. I don't think we have a solid grasp on how consciousness works in the scientific community. So I'm inviting you to say anything you want here. But how do you feel hypnosis actually works?
Okay, so the way to think about hypnosis, I mean, probably better to define a couple terms. So hypnosis to me, it's weird because hypnotists don't agree what hypnosis is. So it makes it really confusing to talk about.
Okay.
Hypnosis to me is a body of technique in the same way you've got a bunch of tools. So hypnosis is a bunch of tools in order to get you into trance.
Okay.
Your goal is trance. Hypnosis is the tool you use just to get into trance.
It could be mushrooms like we talked about at Unite the Light, or we could just not throw up and get there with some words.
All right, so trance has two things in it, two things that are important, and everyone's done this when you listen to great music, or you've had good sex or good food or whatever. Everyone's experienced these trance states. So trance has two things. The first one is that you're going to continuously become more absorbed into the experience, And also your focus is going to continuously narrow. Those are the only two things you need for trance to happen. Continual narrowing of focus, and you're more absorbed. So your imagination starts to kick in. Just like when you're at the movie and suddenly something sad can happen in the movie, you suddenly feel sad, but you know it's actors, you know in your mind, but you suddenly tune out the whole room. The person next to you doesn't exist. The person back there kissing behind you doesn't exist. The guy chewing his popcorn being loud doesn't exist. It's just you in the movie and you're feeling it. You're in a trance state. And trance states, if you've ever had a really good teacher, if you were in school and were lucky enough to have someone who's a total badass, what they were able to do is continuously put you into trance. Trance is a extremely amazing way to learn, because when you learn in trance states, you're no longer bound by the way that you typically feel about yourself. That's why hypnosis works. So typically in our conscious mind, we're constantly doubting ourselves. It's like that, well, I don't know if I can really do that. I mean, it sounds good and I know I want it, but I don't know. And so in hypnosis, you just say, well, you can do that. And your brain goes, maybe I can do that then. And so once you get a foot in the door, like once you have your belief, just like you've been talking about the whole time, it's faith, it's belief. Like it's like all that self-love and continuously do that is all about building belief in yourself. Hypnosis is about empowering you with a tool that's internal. Because
you finally go inward to meet yourself instead of trying to find what kind of potato you are in every Facebook quiz that comes your way. Like you actually go inward to discover who you are, your fears, your darkness, all of it.
And that's what I think is the big trouble that a lot of people are dealing with. And that's why it's such a good spiritual tool, because any spiritual tool should be about self-discovery. Like that's what we're making.
Yes.
And most of us have no clue who we are. We don't know who we are. And that's why we suck at love, because we can't tell. We're not even giving them, we're giving mixed signals all the time. We're showing up as different people. Like, well, are they going to be mad at me if I tell them about this secret thing that I'm into? Well, hell, if they are, then maybe they're not your person, you know? But the second that we start to discover ourselves, the second that we get more into who we are versus just what our name is, I find so many people, when I ask them who they are, they want to tell me their name. And I was like, those are 2 words your parents gave you. Like, that's not even you. Like, why would you tell me that part? Like, tell me the other stuff. And so for so many of us, we've been neglecting the friend that we have inside of us for so long. And instead, hypnosis is a way to make your mind stop talking so damn much so that you're not ruled by it. And so you can get quiet enough. That's why so many people try to meditate. And if you've ever tried meditating, it's been difficult. It's because you didn't know hypnosis. Hypnosis is just that speed. It's like, hey, I'm in that state, but it only took me a minute or 2, tops. So many people are waiting so long to find themselves, and it's just hidden right here. And you can use your breath. There's so many simple techniques for hypnosis that you can use. And suddenly that inner being starts to come alive. And
We're all in it right now.
You go, oh my gosh, there's my damn friend. I got a friend inside me. Why have I been beating myself up? I've got this and our minds are so powerful. And the fact that we're not tapping into it enough, it's so sad. Someone asked in the chat, can you do hypnosis on kids? Absolutely, you can. They have imaginations. They're not bound like we are. They're not like, well, that's not realistic and that's not logical and I can't possibly do that. It's crazy that, of course, you can do it on kids because they have such beautiful, active imaginations. They're always in and out of trances. You have to actually stop them to get them into a trance state. You're like, damn, man, you're already in there. And so it's so important the way that we talk to our kids, the way that we approach them, because they're in that trance state. They believe so much of what you're saying.
Well, also something we've learned in hypnosis is that children develop a critical factor at about age 11 or 12, which is basically like the ego. So anything that is planted in the subconscious up until that point becomes their blueprint on how they operate. And so if your mom was joking one time when you were 8 and said, oh my gosh, you're just like your father, you're always late, then you have this new subconscious belief that you are always going to be late until you start doing inner work to understand, why do I operate this way from an unconscious, habitual pattern. I think it's very important to work with children's minds.
There's like 70 points I have to go back and cover. So we get them into a trance state. Then what happens once they're in a trance state? I think, like with children and whatnot, I think there's this myth that hypnosis is mind control.
Sure.
And I think that's my fear, like of being, like ain't no one digging in there. What actually happens? I mean, I like your definition of quieting the critic. I mean, thinking astrologically, it's almost like you just close down all their houses except the 12th or something, or it feels like you just put to sleep all the other states of awareness. Really is what happens. But once you're in that trance state, which I was every time you two were talking. What exactly do you do next with the client to push them on their way or to inspire them?
So typically what you're looking for is normally you're looking for some sort of physical relaxation, because most people are stressed, they're tense, they're tight. I'm normally just watching people's breathing. And hypnosis hypnosis requires a ritual, we'll call it the induction, the ritual part, because the other person expects a ritual in an induction.
It's kind of like reading tarot cards when you're a psychic. You don't need the cards, but people feel like it's more real because there's something physical.
They're happy when they see those cups, it's just one of those kind of things. And so for hypnosis, we are all suggestible for the most part. We're very suggestible people. I mean, that's why marketers do such a good job.
Except for two types of people.
So I get asked a lot, who can you not hypnotize? Like who's not possible, who's not going to be able to do it? And it's people with extremely low IQs. You cannot hypnotize them, and you cannot hypnotize schizophrenics. Everybody else is very hypnotizable, and in fact goes into hypnosis every night when they go to sleep and comes out of hypnosis every morning when they wake up. You're passing through those brainwave states at all times. So you asked about what do I do once a person is relaxed? I give them suggestions. I have them imagine and picture things in a way that they haven't done before. And so the second that they do that, the problem is like when you have a traumatic experience happen to you, let's say it happens that when you're a kid, your brain had only developed so far. So you only had so much ability in your brain to process what went on. The problem is when the memory gets stored, it stops right there. And so unless you go back into the memory and do something to it, reframe it, use it in a new way, have a different kind of experience with the memory, and let go of all those feelings that are attached to that memory, it stays there. So in hypnosis, what happens is you become calm enough to be able to go back into old memories and say, like, you know what? I'm an adult now. That stuff that someone said when I was in second grade about how big my teeth are, that doesn't have any power over me now. I can public speak now. I get so many people, you regress them, and it's the silliest stuff that has been plaguing their life for so long. They're not having the life that they want because literally what someone on the playground may have said when they were playing flag football or something, hey, you suck, no one loves you. And then that's it. It's in there. They go, well, that person told me no one loves me, so I guess I can't be loved now. And the second as an adult that you see that and you're able to flip the switch, like, that kid was just crazy. He was just running around being silly. You laugh at it, and the subconscious rewrites the belief, and now you don't believe that anymore, so now you don't act that way anymore.
Was the client aware that it went back to a childhood moment on the playground, or?
Yeah, like the client does all the work. The only hypnosis there is self-hypnosis. Chris doesn't put anyone into hypnosis. It's you making a conscious choice to say, I trust myself enough to let go and go into the mind. That's why the mind freaks out, like mind control, because the mind doesn't want to give up that protection role that the ego has been given. And so it is like, no, I have to stand guard. I have to stand guard. And so that's why most people freak out, like don't want to do drugs or don't want to do hypnosis, because they're afraid of losing their mind. But the mind isn't the one in control, although it is a false sense of reality for it.
I think there's been fear of what I might find in there.
Yes, correct.
I was afraid of that. I was like, yeah,
but the truth is the past is over. The pain from the past has already been done. The hardest part has been gone through. This is the part to just look back with like taking the rose colored glasses off and going, oh, I see why that happened. Now I can find compassion and forgiveness in the situation.
Yeah. What can be really interesting from that is some people's most horrible experiences. Some of the things that, sitting down with people in sessions for so many years now, people divulge sometimes extremely traumatic events that they've gone through. And it's interesting that a lot of times after we work together, a lot of people tell me in confidence, maybe months later, that they're thankful to those hard things that they went through, that it actually shaped them as a person, that it made them change their career, that it makes them interact with their kids different. And so a lot of times what going back and reviewing these things as an adult makes you realize is that you kind of needed them. Mm-hmm. Even if they were awful in the moment, even if you wrote it down on paper, it'd bring tears come out. I mean, it's just, there's some things that we just have to go through or else our being doesn't evolve. Like a lot of people want growth and don't realize that it comes with lessons. It comes with hard work. It comes with challenges. And so if you're not, all you're supposed to be doing right now is making yourself good enough to go through the challenges. Like, how can I make myself strong enough so that when the challenges come, I'm not just swept under from them,
with the conversation about self-love, one of the most profound, and I've had thousands and thousands of hours of practice with Chris, I will say that one of the most profound experiences with me was something we call the forgiveness chair. And in that session, we go through all the people that you need to let go of your anger. So my brother who raped me, my stepdad who beat my mom, my biological dad who beat my mom. Like, it was a lot of trauma that I put all these like forgiveness things. And the most profound thing happened when he asked me, is there anyone else you want to put in the chair? And I'm not saying any of this out loud. That's what a lot of people are afraid of, is like, do I have to talk to you? All of this is like watching a movie in your mind. So he says, is there anyone else you want to put in the chair? And then boom, my 19-year-old self showed up. She's way overweight, short black hair, piercings all over her face, angry. Her aura is just black and heavy. And I looked at her and I said, why are you so angry? And her response, my 19-year-old self, was because I had so much love to give and no one to give it to. And in that moment, I healed so much of the trauma that I carried from my younger years, because I thought every boy I slept with would give me the love that I was looking for. I thought every time I made great grades, my parents would be pleased with me more. You know, I was always searching for love outside myself. And when I finished that session, I opened my eyes and Chris said, I just met you for the first time. He said, all of your pain that you've experienced, that that I've watched you go through, is because you have so much love to share. And what I learned in that session is that I wasn't giving the love to myself first. And that's when everything changed.
When you say session, you mean trance, right? Like hypnotic trance? Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure. So basically a session, it sounds like they're kind of gamey. Like you have different kind of varieties of that you can just kind of throw on.
Yeah, we have healing rooms that we go into. We go down like the memory of the mind of like different whole. I mean, it's infinite. It's infinite. We go to the cat. We take all of our retreaters, and in fact, our couples retreat and our goddess retreat, we do these hypnosis sessions because that's how you get the rapid transformation. And so we do what's called going to the cabin, and you meet your spirit animal or your spirit guides and past loved ones that have a message for you. And at this last Costa Rica retreat that we did, every single person had someone come through and share a message, which hasn't been the case. So I see that the evolution and people are ready for higher connection to consciousness is here. It's happening, and it's really exciting.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So what is you started to go down the path of past lives, you said. Tell us about that.
Okay, so used to, when I first got into hypnosis, I only knew techniques that were in medical journals because that's the only thing that I read in the beginning.
Oh, right.
A lot of times, because hypnosis was something that was regularly used by doctors in the 50s. It was a common practice. Was it
really?
Oh yeah, especially for anesthesia. So if you were going to get a limb removed, let's say something crazy like a limb removed, they wouldn't give you any kind of. You wouldn't come in and get anesthesia. You wouldn't have a guy come in and give you some drugs. You'd have a hypnotist come in. And you would be able to be fully awake, looking at the doctor if you wanted to, while having the amputation, but it doesn't hurt you. You don't feel the pain. There's actually pain-free childbirths using hypnosis. Hypnosis is one of the most underrated tools I've ever seen. The fact that everybody doesn't know about it and the massive amount of power that you can get from it, and you can use it for yourself. You know, it's one of those things that after dealing with clients for so long, I was like, why am I not recording and doing all this stuff for myself? Like this is crazy. So it's a broad topic. So I was doing regression hypnosis. I would regress people to causes. I would see what that situation was like, and then we would come up. And one lady ended up going into a regression, and she regressed back into a past life. And I didn't understand that in the beginning because the stuff she was saying was extremely confusing. And then all of a sudden it came up, and I'm like, what is going on? Just describe yourself, describe the situation. I'm not understanding. And then suddenly she goes, oh my gosh, I have a penis. And I was like, I was like, what is going on? And so she'd gone into a past life. And so as a hypnotist, my goal is always to work with whatever comes up. I'm not trying to push my reality on someone else's. I'm just, whatever they bring up in the session that's what we deal with. And so she's in this different life. So I'm asking her, we'll go to a situation that you need to deal with. And so she does, and everything. She comes out of that. She said, that was one of the most healing things I've ever done in my entire life. She said, people from my past life, I know are people in my current life, but we have different roles. Like my mom now is my daughter in this current life.
Wow.
I never really studied about that. I never really done anything like that. And so it happened. I thought, I'm gonna start doing it now. I mean, if a client can spontaneously do this, why can't I actually like guide and direct them to do this. And sure enough, you can. Past life regressions can be massively healing because sometimes the things that we're dealing with in our current life just don't seem to show enough clues for us to really get our hands around it.
Right.
And then once you're in the past life, you're like, oh, that's what it was. We knew early that we didn't want to have kids. Britt lost a kid in a past life at a really young age. And so it's just been, it was brutal. Like, it was just totally devastating for her. So when we met and I already didn't want to have kids.
He already had a vasectomy. I was like, that's the one.
That's funny. How funny, but you knew it. So Britt, no, why did you have a vasectomy? Did you have a past life that you knew of or no?
No, he had 5 stripper stepmoms.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
When you live in that kind of environment, it was just that I didn't think marriage was something that could work. Like the honest answer was I was like, I don't know that that's a thing, because I've seen it in movies, I'd read about it and stuff like that, but I'd never experienced it. My parents early on, both my parents have been married 4 or 5 times each. And so it was just one of those things where it just seemed like, how am I going to put all of my eggs in a basket that just doesn't seem like it's going to be a thing? And so when I met Britt and she was so gung ho about our relationship, I was like, babe, I want to tell you, like, I'm just no way. I'm not getting married. It's just not going to happen. What?
Oh,
You're so excited.
Carry on.
I can see you so excited.
I'm being patient.
And it was just one of those things where I had to reconsider. I saw Britt's grandparents. What really threw me was I saw Britt's grandparents and the insane amount of love that they had for each other. And they're funny with each other. They cuss at each other. They crack jokes. You're like, what the hell are you doing in there? You know, it's playful and it's fun and it was different. I've seen so many relationships are just boring and dry, and you meet them and you're like, are you sure you guys are in love? Like, are you even excited? Do you still have those same kind of sparks? And watching them after, I don't know how many, 50, 60 years they've been married. And it was just like, I remember looking at Britt and saying, I think I can do this. I didn't know it was a thing, but now watching them and how much they love their family and just how much they pour into each other, I was like, not only do I think I can do this, but I really want this, because I've never met just like happier people in my whole life who just have dedicated so much of themselves to each other in a way it's just.
And my grandparents couldn't speak the same language when they met. So they met based on it started with a physical connection, but I think there was also a soulful connection too, obviously.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I would imagine, I'm going to go back to the past lives. I would imagine that when you'll discover there's a past life reason why you had 5 stripper stepmoms or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, there's probably something personal. So, excuse me, from that discovery of the woman who realized she had a penis, great story. How did it unfold from there? I mean, have you been like Brian Weiss deliberately going there, or are you just opening the door?
It's interesting. Brian Weiss and I were taught by the exact same guy. We had the exact same, the guy who taught Brian Weiss. Yeah.
And we've actually met Brian and had past life regression with him. So someone was talking about, this sounds like a lot like Brian Weiss. And yes, that's what inspired us to get into all of this. The book is called Many Lives, Many Masters. And
he's incredible.
Yeah.
Like, there, some people out there that are showy, gimmicky. Brian Weiss is the real
It's
deal.
like Dolores Cannon, Brian Weiss, like legit.
Yeah. So when I figured out that I could do past life regressions, I started just offering that. I just started blatantly coming out and saying, hey, would you like to come with me and, come have a session, have a past life? And so more people started requesting doing that. But it's been a phenomenal tool. Like I said, I'm only interested in change. I mean, if I could wear, a propeller hat and that would get people to change more, I would definitely be.
You did wear my sparkle outfit just the other day.
I did.
We get pictures.
It's on Instagram.
Okay.
It's dangerous.
Yeah. I never get him to do any fun trends or whatever, but he dressed up in my sparkle outfit to match my freak.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah.
That's true love right there. Wearing each other's sparkles.
And if you saw how sparkly Brittney gets, that was a huge act of kindness. She's a unicorn. You're like a unicorn the way you sparkle, Brittney.
It was insane. Okay, hold on. It reminded me of something that you asked, and that is that when I figured out that I could do past life regressions, I immediately got on the phone with my mom. And I'm like, hey, I can do cool shit. Hey, you want to come over? She lived a quarter mile down the road. I'm like, you've got to come over right now. We're going to do this cool ass past life regression. This is going to be like, I'm going to blow you away. This is going to be the coolest thing you've ever seen done in your life. I built it up too much is what I did. I built it up a lot.
Oh.
She came in, she sat down, she's sitting in the chair. And of course, people hypnotized. You look like this. That's
right.
it. As exciting as it is for me, I'm like, all right, just you sitting there with your eyes closed. Perfect.
Talk about no feedback from the client.
Yeah. I'm doing the session. We're doing it. I'm rocking and rolling. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm giving my mom the coolest experience. She's probably meeting past lovers and all sorts of just cool things. She's probably rich as can be. And then she starts crying and bawling, and tears are coming out. And I'm like, oh my God, like what? She's experiencing something, like something's going on. So we get out of the session and we're sitting and we're talking. And I'm like, Mom, what's going down? She said that she could hear the sound of a metal. Back in the day, they used metal syringes with metal vials. And so like the whole needle syringe situation was all metal. And she said she could hear herself screwing those in as she got ready to give abortions to women who were prostitutes.
Whoa.
So she said she was one of the first female doctors, and she'd already done it 30,000 times. So when she came out of the session, she goes, I've killed 30,000 babies. I just witnessed and experienced myself doing it. And it made me wonder, like, the whole stripper thing, if that made her go into this life and become that. Because
stripper and in the medical field.
Yeah, as soon as she got done with as soon as I was born, she was like, I've obviously got to do something different. I'm going to be a nurse. I'm going to and so it was so interesting how our current life in so many ways ties exactly into not only that past life, but others.
I feel like we need to do a whole side note. We need to do a whole series of like the past life regressions that we've like encountered and done, like, you know, especially just a lot of mine, like dad, forget, like things that I couldn't forgive my stepdad in this life. And even having readings with you, I've connected the dots. Like he turned me in for being a witch in a past life and got me killed. So he had to like reverse his karma and like be my stepdad in this life. And we still butted heads all the way till the very end about religion and this and that and all, you know, the nature of the universe. So it's interesting how when you start to do these past life regressions, you start to understand the relationship dynamics that you're in with people that are, you're like, you're a soul family. Like, why are you so familiar? Like, why do we have this beef and I didn't do shit to you? Like, what is the problem? You know, it helps unlock a lot of freedom to just be present and not live in the same perpetual, like, weird dynamic. It frees up the karma, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because you don't hold on to resentment and it's only love.
Right. With past lives, you know, what's interesting is I feel, for one, we're at this integration point in our culture. So I feel like we're starting to understand. A lot of us are waking up to our past lives, let's just say organically. But I also would be open to your way as well, like to learn more. But I'm finding this is you're in the right field at the right time, as I'm getting at here, Christopher, because I think that the whole world wants to wake up to why they are who they are. And one of the things I've noticed in astrology readings is the biggest influence, which is what you become. And by the way, you become at step 11. So step 11 is I become. That's when you become this new thing. That I become at age 11 is actually based on your deepest wound cycle from past lives. So our first version of ourself is based on all of our past life wounds. A series of them. And as a psychic, I can see like 3 or 4 past lives, just kind of see them tied to the Chiron or whatever. And, you know, Chiron doesn't even complete its full cycle until age 49, 50. So to me, past lives is like 50% of what this life is about, because the choices we made were all based on those past life choices. And as I've begun to know my past lives, it's been so healing, because it explains why I'm a fucking neurotic about something. It explains why why I can't stand this, or I'm afraid of water. So many things that looked bizarre, like Chris is a weird one, and now it's just like, no, I almost drowned or whatever, you know. So I think that work is phenomenal. Do you feel that people have access to, astrologically, it looks like when I look at a chart that we pull up a few past lives to work with in this one. Do you find that that's true, that there's like some resonant past lives in the client? Or do you sometimes go as far as like, you know, living on another planet?
For the most part, it's mostly people dealing with things that are so similar to what we're currently dealing with in life, but just in different times.
It's usually what trauma is affecting you the most that you can, one, handle right now in the healing process, and 2, what is holding you back at this current time. So usually the past life regressions go to a time that is going to help you the most. You know, it's not like, well, I get to decide. It's like mediumship. You don't get to decide who comes through. You're just a channel, and who knocks at the door is right. You deliver the message. So it's kind of the same with the past life regression is take me back to a life that's affecting me now, a past life that's affecting me in this current reality. be.
Yeah, so that's the big difference. That phrasing right there is the difference in the whole game. Because whenever I do sessions like this, that's what I'm saying. I'm not just like, we're just going into a past life now. It's a past life that has to do everything with what's going on in your life right now. The characters,
Wow.
the situations. And so you can
like, cool, we were Cleopatra. Okay, great. But like, you're still mad at your mom. Okay, we got to clear the karma, you know?
Yeah, so it's a lot more of that. The phrasing in hypnosis is so important because that's absolutely where you're going to be getting out of it. And it's so amazing what people can do once they see themselves and other people in their lives in the different roles. You start to, I think, have more compassion. A lot of times we're angry at people and they're like, oh my gosh, like I beat the hell out of them in this last life. So now they're maybe using me as a little bit of a punching bag and maybe I deserved it a little bit. I was a little bit of a hard ass. And so you start to have those kind of feelings come up and realize like, I play a role more than just always being the victim. Like sometimes I'm the villain. And
Right.
So in some lives, I've been good at that. You know,
A lot of victims in this life were villains and last ones.
Yeah, because you have to reverse the karma to understand both sides of the coin.
Precisely, Libra. Precisely. Yeah, no, seriously. Interesting. So you're seeing people make those flips, like complete life flips about how they look at their mother or how they look at someone because they realized it was a different role in another life. Mm-hmm. I would imagine, I mean, for me, past life visions are sort of like a dream. It's just sort of a visual that takes over with knowledge and awareness. How would you describe what the client is going through, Chris?
Absolutely, that's it. I mean,
it's watching a movie in your mind.
Yeah, it is just like something that plays out on the movie screen. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
without your imagination, you don't give it a scene. It just all of a sudden you've got like something in front of you.
So whenever I regress people, the same type of situation. You know, go back to a lifetime that has to do with this, and then 1, 2, 3, you're there. Is it inside? Are you inside or outside? Is it daytime or nighttime? Are you alone or are people with you? And that scene, they're just automatically thrust into something. And wow. I've never had someone not be. Like something's always happening. It's almost like, to me, hypnosis is one of those things where the subconscious mind has wanted to do something for a long time. It's wanted to either make a kind of change or wanted to show you a bit of information, but it's almost like it's blocked in some way. It's like the conscious mind blocks it from really kind of delivering you the clues and hints and information that you need. And the second that you're relaxed enough in that relaxed mental state, it's like the subconscious goes, oh my God, I've been wanting to tell you, dude. I've been wanting to tell you about this the whole time. Like you can't be with this person.
It's a friend trying to call you on a different line, but you have to call the right line, you know?
Yeah. I mean, so it is just, it's typically a visual experience. Some people aren't very visual, so they experience just black, but they hear things or they have a feeling of being something. So some people are different. For most people, it's like a visual representation. Some people see it as it's happening, like they're watching a movie, and some people are in the movie. It just depends.
And I feel like I have to share, when I first started practicing with him, I only saw black. He would, regress me and do all the things. And he would say, what do you see? I just see black. I don't think it's working. I just see black. And I remember him telling me, seeing black is seeing something. And that was enough for me to go, okay, maybe I am doing this right. And it was just getting the mind comfortable with letting go to that next level of awareness. And it's kind of like, we've been reading the comments about all the things, and yes, we love to smoke a little weed and do some mushrooms. So it's like the first time you go somewhere high, you're like, everybody knows, everybody can tell, but no one can tell. So it's kind of like the same, like learning how to operate or navigate in a new awareness, in a new field of reference. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Would it be safe to say you could use it for meditation? It sounds like a better meditation.
It is it's actually meditation without it's skipping all the practice work. Yeah. It's like hypnosis is like the shortcut to meditation.
So guided meditation is like getting an email newsletter, and hypnosis is like getting a handwritten letter. They're similar, but they're very different at the same time. It's a different kind of conversation that you're happening. It's just something that typically is much deeper. You get right to it. A lot of times in meditation, you're just going to be like, I'm uncomfortable sitting. And that's the only thought you're going to have over and over again. In hypnosis, you stop caring really about your body, the position that you're in, because you become so singularly focused, like I was talking about earlier, on whatever it is that you're in that session for. And so because of that narrowing of focus, you automatically hit the meditative state. You just pass right through it.
I honestly feel like when we do these every Saturday when I get done with the salon, it's like been our ritual. And I always feel my legs twitch and jump when I start to regress. I can feel my soul lifting out of my body, kind of like you're about to go to sleep and you're in that twilight in between stage. That's what it feels like, is getting yourself into that twilight stage, but not having to wait till the next morning to get there. So you can do it on command.
Interesting. And from a spiritual perspective, have you used it to connect to spirit, connect to the other side? Like, do you go that direction too versus just the client's past?
Yeah.
It sounds like you've had dead people show up.
Yeah, lots of them.
Yeah. So what I realized early on is that, so the mind is massively expansive. And what you can do is you can build basically different rooms in the mind, which would be like something you could go. So you can imagine like a safe room, or a room where you it's really tranquil for you, like a beach or something, but you can have that room in your mind. And so what we did was we created a room called the cabin. And inside that cabin is where you can go to have these more spiritual experiences with your guides. That way, I don't like the client always needing me. I'm not that kind of person. I don't want to do 300 sessions. The max I typically ever do with a person is 5 or 6. And then they just, at that point, it's like, if we haven't done it, we're not going to do it. And so I want to leave the client with something that they can go back and do on their own. And if they had kids or something like that, you can do it with your kids.
Because once you mentally know how to go to that place in your mind, you can go back time and time again to go speak to your past loved ones or get the information that you need. But it's just knowing it's like knowing the shortcut. It's like everyone knows, like the Mario 3 shortcuts, right? Like we pass on by, all the levels. And hypnosis to me is like that shortcut to just get to the place where the information is. And
someone's saying, yeah, hypnosis is it's a intimate experience. It's very consensual.
It's intimate with yourself, and then to allow someone for you to be your authentic self and full vulnerability in front of another person. I mean, it requires a level of trust for sure.
I like to more think of myself as like a tour guide. I'm more of like a park tour guide, and I'm going to be driving the little tour cart around in your mind, and you're going to be getting off and doing things.
Like you control the whole, you control the whole thing.
Yeah. Like I can't get out and do stuff. I can't go there with you, but I can be there if you need to say, hey, I'm going to get back to the cart. The guy's in the cart. I'm going to go back to him. That's perfectly fine. So I like doing it. I prefer hypnosis more in that state. Very consensual. I mean, it's one of those things where once you relax enough, it feels so good. Most of us never relax.
Yeah.
We take such shallow breaths. We're always up in our head. We're always in our emotions. And we don't realize if we would take some deep belly breaths, like hypnosis is such a simple thing to get into. And it's such a simple body of work. Taking those deep breaths enough. If we were all right now to take 5 deep breaths, you're there. Like you're almost in hypnosis. It's just we don't slow down enough with our current life. And so the state just seems to constantly escape us. And we're just always listening to that hamster wheel of our mind.
I'm loving all the comments. Someone asked, can you do it remotely? And we learned in 2020, you can definitely do it remotely. We had clients flying in from out of state that couldn't do that anymore. And she said, they were all like, we're willing to give it a try. And it works just fine.
Yeah. The other thing is someone asked about, do I record sessions? And typically, no, you don't. Once you've done it, you don't need it again. It's not something that you come in.
If you personally want to record it for funsies, like some people do, but
it's rare because once you've gone, it's like once you've gone through it, once you've seen it, once you've done the things, you've done it. Like you don't need to go do it. It's not like food where you need to replenish yourself. It's just you've done it enough times.
You have full memory of everything, right? I mean,
always.
Yeah. And in fact, like when you're awake in that twilight, when you're awake, but you're not, and you can hear people come in the room. You can hear people say, hey, it's time to get up, babe. We've got to go to work. You can hear all that. So it's the same thing. You can hear. And in fact, your senses are so heightened that I can hear the blow dryer halfway down the salon because he comes to my salon to do it. I can hear conversations at the other end of the building that I would have never heard before had I not like gone so quiet and tuned in. So you're absolutely more aware than you are in your normal life because your mind is fucking chattering all the time, keeping you busy and distracted.
Well, that's what I'm starting to wonder. I'm starting to wonder if hypnosis is just a return to our natural state.
Bingo.
That's exactly what it is. And it's so weird how the movies and so many things have just bastardized hypnosis in so many ways because it's such a built-in tool. Like our mind has this capability already in. I'm not doing some weird magic trick. I'm not pulling rabbits out of any hat. I'm literally just talking. And the fact that like your brain just goes, oh, I've been needing this. I love it. I remember so when Britt's mom had a stroke in 2012, She was paralyzed along the right side of her body. I mean, just
Wow.
and we're thinking, well, she's not going to walk again, really. She's not going to talk again. She's not going to do anything. And Britt asked me that magical question. She always asked me, well, can't you do something for her?
You think it'll work?
Isn't there some hypnosis? And my answer always is, I don't know, but we'll definitely try. And so I do one session with her. We sit down because she was really wanting to like get back to life again. She was starting to like move a bit more. And she was like, I want my life.
She had regained mobility in the right side, but she has no peripheral vision. So she was terrified of driving.
And so I didn't know what to do. And so same relaxing, we're just deep breathing together. We're doing some stuff. And I told her, then this is like what a hypnosis session is really like. So I told her, whatever you've learned before, like anything you've ever learned in your life, if you were to learn it for a second time, that second time is always going to be easier because you've already done it. And also, as you start to practice things and start to remember them, every day they're just going to get easier.
Because she had to relearn how to do everything, like
Wow.
walk, talk, write. I mean, it was a long recovery.
So she comes up out of session. She looks at me. She goes, "That's the most relaxed I've been in
25 years.
25
and
years."
She is a pot smoker for you curious fans.
Yeah. So she said, that's the most relaxed I've ever felt. And within 2 months, she bought herself a car and drove to our house.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I think
that was one session.
And it was what you were talking about earlier. So much of our life is about a belief.
She bought herself a car that had the blinking side warning mirrors so that if she didn't see
Right.
the car would warn her. So she felt a sense of safety.
Yeah. And her being in that space and driving to it. I mean, when it's like I said, when you help somebody, when you see someone in where they really need it, where they're in a more dire situation and they're really calling out and saying like, hey, can you help me? Watching that person succeed is just like one of the biggest rushes of life. And knowing that you had even the smallest part of that is just so fulfilling. And seeing her shine and everything has just been so beautiful. And it's a belief. Someone had been telling her she was never going to be able to do certain things again. She was never going to drive again. And she believed them. And that was the biggest problem. We're constantly told who we are by other people. We're constantly told what to believe in. We're constantly told about what the limitations, what the possibilities are for our lives. And the second that you don't believe that anymore, the second you don't feel that anymore, the second that you step in and go, no, that's not me. I can do the things that I want to do. I'm here for a purpose. I'm here for a reason. Life changes. And it doesn't take a lot of effort. It just literally takes that belief. And once that belief takes over, once that subconscious mind takes over and believes it and has faith, suddenly you're shining again. And it's just amazing things just begin to happen in your life.
Yeah, many athletes use this. It's true. It's ask any Olympian why they're an Olympian versus not.
And this is like, the athletes are the vast majority of my clients now. I mean, people.
That's why we've lived at the Dallas Cowboys headquarters for almost the last 10 years.
Wow. So what are they hypnotizing for? I mean, without giving away secrets.
So the biggest thing that I see with athletes is not so much success at this point. A lot of people come to me, they want to work success mindset. They've had these guys are already dedicated. But this is their number one. They sacrifice relationships. They get hit harder than, bad stuff that I'm not going to go out and do. What you see, what really works with them is being able to relax after they've made a mistake.
Oh, yeah. Drop the ball.
And if you make a fumble, if you throw an interception, your career is on the line, which means everything you've done since you were 4 years old and every ability that you've, built towards having this career is now in jeopardy. And so once you beat yourself up in that moment, the next play sucks too. The play after that sucks too. And so most of my work is either recovery type work, getting them to relax and not be so stressed. And then also when they do make a mistake, that they don't make a mistake for the rest of the season, rest of the game, so that those things just fall off their back.
They stop the mental loop of replaying that negative vision of messing up. It's actually creating a new vision of nope, we're going to just move on and carry on. I know, I'm sure you have a question, but I want to answer. Someone had asked, I wonder if it's possible to hypnotize yourself, like listening to pre-recorded media and record it in a session. So all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. No one can do it for you. So actually the best kind of hypnosis is talking to yourself on your phone memo, just like you are amazing, you're talented, you're abundant, you're lovable, and listening to that back to yourself in your own voice is one of the most powerful things. And in fact, we have multiple masterclasses in the Elevated Life Club, which it's obviously a monthly ongoing coaching session, but there's also 75 masterclasses that we've already done over the last 7 years. And we've dove into hypnosis, self-hypnosis, advanced hypnosis, and we teach you how to create those patterns and scripts for yourself, because that's put the power into your hands, not anyone else's.
So, I mean, the strong takeaway is Chris is not really hypnotizing me. I am.
Correct.
And then at some point, do I need Chris, or
No.
are people doing it themselves? Okay.
No, once you get the map, then you don't need the guide.
Ooh, well, good thing 2 billion, billions of people here, Chris, lots of customers.
Well, it's just like if I showed you how to build a fire, you'd be like, I might could do some of that. And the first time you did, you might go, I didn't do that. It sucked. The fire didn't start. And I come in the next time, I show you again. When I work with clients, I'm constantly teaching them how to do it to themselves. I tell them what order we're going to be doing stuff in. I set up the expectation so they know what's going to be happening. And so it's so important to build that into the client, because this tool is not for me. I mean, people discovered this thing forever ago. And so it's so important in terms of how I view where the world's going to empower the clients. I mean, it's not like you take these pills and you come back to me later. I want to see you do this for yourself. I want to see you do it for your family, for your kids. I don't want you to have to rely on me. Like you said, I have a lot of clients, and there's plenty more people in the sea. It doesn't make sense for me to just try and harp on one. Well, you're just going to see me for the rest of your life, and we're going to talk about this again next Friday. Like, we're not going to talk about it. You're going to be over it, and then you're going to move on. And if you end up wanting to refer some people to me, I appreciate that. Like that's where the magic comes in. When you take a person and make big radical changes in their life, they've been like me. I was 274 pounds and I've lost 100 pounds at this point. And when you have a big radical transformation like that and you keep it off, I mean, I've had the weight spin off for 12, 13 years at this point. And so people are going, what are you doing, man? I'm doing hypnosis. Hypnosis works. I've kept it off. It's been a joke. It's not that hard.
So let's think of some practical applications for hypnosis that people may not think about. Obviously, diet issues. I mean, you just hit around the head. Like so many clients struggling back and forth. Guilt, I ate the cookie. I shouldn't have eaten the cookie. Now it's just like, oh my God. I think it's probably that mind game, really. It's not even about food. It's probably about the mind game. But so helping people with eating disorders, what are some other ideas that you've used or seen just to kind of expand the minds of the viewers?
Yeah, some of the things that have come up so often, Chris has made guided meditations instead of hiring him. He's made these audios because some of the same things come up. Weight loss is one of them. Success, confidence. What are some of the other ones you've created?
I mean, the simple ones are anything where you get up nerves, any kind of habit control. All habit control is hypnosis.
Oh gosh, someone's mom used to have seizures while she would drive her to school, and she would have to jump in her mom's lap and drive the car. She's terrified of being a passenger, and we were going on vacation with her on a road trip, and I was like, I will have none of that. You're gonna have a session with Chris, and in exchange, you'll give me a massage. It'll be great. And they did that session, and she can ride in a car, no problem now. So it's like, what can it not be used for?
Yeah, it's impressive because just kind of give you a little more insight. Because I know hypnosis is a wild thing.
Hold on, because I'm getting a download. Because what can it not be used for? Because it is the tool to give you your power back, because you are the powerful one. You are the manifester. You are the one with that divine birthright, channel, magic, all the things. So hypnosis is just that tool to reclaim that sovereignty and that power that we were born with. They say we only use 10% of our brain. It's because we're not tapping into it with the tool that has been actually given to us so easily. We go into hypnosis all the time. Trance is a normal state. So it's just knowing how to use it in the right time, in the right setting.
Yeah. And specifically with that client, what was really interesting is because I'm always trying to figure out how are people making the things happen? Because in order for you to feel any way, you have to be doing something internally. You don't just feel that way naturally. Naturally, we're all kind of calm and peaceful. Like that's kind of our natural state. And then you add in all the mind loops, and then suddenly they're having to create either images or feelings, or they're telling themselves something. They're doing something to screw it all up. We all are. Yeah. And so what I found with her is that she had a specific feeling that was coming up whenever she got in the car with a person. It was the same feeling. And so in the session, I had her just recreate the feeling. And then I had her slow it down. I had her move it in different directions. I had her put the feeling, take it out of her stomach, put it in her hand. I had her just do different things until I said, are you still sad while you're thinking about being in the car? And she was like, no, I feel really calm and comfortable. I know this person doesn't have seizures. I But I was a kid, she's only 10 years old doing that. And having to pull her mom out of the seat, get into the car, get into the driver's seat and press the brake as a 10-year-old, that's a big ask for somebody. And so her body put up the safety guards. And the second she realized, I don't have to do that anymore. I mean, she couldn't even ride in the car with her husband. It was someone who loves her to death. And so we have those things. We all have those things. We all have those little blind spots like that. And we're just creating something weird in our body. And like once that comes to light, that was a 20-minute session.
Oh, the other thing, it just hit me, anxiety. So many people come to you for anxiety because they're making the wrong mental images. They're picturing, Chris has always said, worry is living in the future and planning to fail. And that's why I feel like people who are anxious are picturing a future that they don't want. And it's creating the physical the sensations and the emotions, because that's how the system goes. You create the mental image, the body provides the emotions to you, the emotions create the action creates the belief. So when people are worrying and projecting a mental image of a future that they don't want, it's going to create this visceral reaction in the body that makes you feel like, oh God, I feel it, so it must be true. So that's why Olympian athletes are using hypnosis, because they're reframing and reprogramming those mental images that they're making. They're not living in the future and planning to lose. They are living in the future and planning to win that gold medal. So it's about creating the right mental image in your mind.
It sounds like, hearing you speak, that people have trauma and then they get sort of traumatized, which means is really paralyzed and sort of stuck in a certain rut. And it sounds like Chris goes in there and just sort of loosens up all the paralysis points of, putting it in her hand, putting it in her, it sounds like you just sort of like get them out of that conscious grip that they had been in on their own, the prison they had made for themselves. Yeah. You give them sort of like a neutrality and they can reset. That's what it sounds like.
That's pretty much it, and it's really amazing because it's so simple. It's such a simple.
It's always simple. It's almost like I get paid for this. Huh?
Yeah. So someone asked, "Can you do hypnosis to attract love?"
Tell my brother's story.
Oh yeah, can you?
Are you ready for this?
Asking for a friend. Asking for a friend.
Here we go, friends. All right. So again, Britt's brother calls me, and he just broke his girlfriend for
like 5 years.
They just broken up, kind of out of the blue, and he had no idea what was he
2020 breakup.
It was a big deal. And he calls me, and he's like one of the sweetest guys I've ever met. And I'm like, I don't know what we can do, man. Why don't we try it out? And so we do a session. And what I was telling him is that he's trying too hard. So many of us for love try really hard. And love is not something that we can do with our mind. It is something that we can only do with our heart.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times when you're trying, that's the mind is trying.
Right.
This way.
I know. I'd say most people are there.
Always trying. And so if we're
the mind trying. Yeah.
Like, how do you know where to look for love? I don't know. It was amazing. The second that Britt and I, the big secret, people always ask, well, how did you guys find each other? How do you guys meet each other? Both of us had decided, I'm not interested anymore. Absolutely. I've been in crap relationships. I don't want to be in a crap relationship. I'm just going to take care of myself. I'm just going to love myself. I'm just going to work on my fitness. I'm going to eat the right foods. I'm going to sleep well. I'm going to do all the basics. And boom, we showed up in each other's life immediately. It happened immediately. Okay. So Britt's brother, we get on the phone, having the session. And I said, you've been trying too hard. Instead, let's just attract her. Let's attract her. You stop going to bars. You're not going to meet the person in the bar anyway. Like unless you want to meet alcoholics, it's going to be tough in the bar, right? Right. And if you find clients in there, send them my way. But I said, why don't you let her come to you? So I just had him imagine himself with this big magnet in his body. And it was going to be that kind of person that he's always been wanting. But that he's not going to have to try so hard, because a lot of life, when we're trying really hard, is when we're going to do it wrong. It's always when we're in the flow states. It's always when we're relaxed and in flow and just enjoying ourselves. And that's where all the magic really happens. And so I said, not only is she going to show up, she's gonna come up to your door. It's just gonna be so easy for you. It was crazy. It's the way I phrased it. And he comes out, he goes, dude, that was really cool. Think that's gonna happen? I'm like, let's find out. Within 2 months?
Yeah.
Within 2 months. So he lived in a place where there's downstairs where he lived, and he had an apartment place above him. And so his boss calls him up and said, hey, I've got some people I want to show the apartment to. Dude, would you mind doing that? I can't get there. Can you show the apartment? It was her.
Wow.
It was a chick. So she moved in above him within a few months.
Now they're married with a baby.
It's just been such a beautiful thing. And I think so many of us are trying to make life so hard.
Yeah.
We're trying to use our mind to do things that the mind's not capable of doing. The mind's set up so you can do habit control. You should be using your mind to set up the habits that you want, to give you the right routines, to set up your life, to think about things logically, to know how to parallel park.
Or get groceries.
Absolutely amazing things to do. Mine is phenomenal. But when you're using your mind to do things like love, it's not going to happen. There's just no way. It can't do it enough. The mind can only talk about love. It can't feel it.
Correct.
And so because of that, it's almost like me writing a book about war. I don't know enough about war. I've never been there before. I haven't, like Britt's granddad meeting, her grandma, like being a Navy Seabee and witnessing your friends die and stuff like that. It would just be a storybook for me. And so you have to stop doing that. You have to allow yourself to be in it. So many people won't allow themselves to be vulnerable, to allow themselves to hurt, to allow themselves to be real in front of somebody else, because we're so used to saying, well, if I'm just the person the other person wants me to be, then they'll love me. And the only thing that does is they will never know you, because no one can meet you if you're being somebody different. And so it's always just start being yourself. Start being yourself and see who resonates with that. It's not about being somebody different. It's not showing up a certain different way. Yeah, you want to show up as your best self, of course. You want to do your hair and all the cool stuff if that makes you feel good. And the person who will love you, who will be into you, who will find all those things, that's who they'll be attracted to. You want a person who's really attracted to you, so you don't have to fake it every day. I don't wake up trying to put a fake smile on my face. I am who I am. And I just let that rock and roll.
Oh man, Kat says pain is when we resist change.
Oof.
That there's a Zen philosophy that says you'll end suffering when you accept what is. And that is the philosophy that got me through my mom's stroke, and what's gotten me through putting our dog down yesterday and moving and today and all the things. When we stop trying to resist what is naturally at our hands and feet, and we just say, okay, what good can come from this? It puts us in a whole different reality of seeing things in a bigger picture of how can this work out for me, and living from a place of ease and trust and not victimhood. Like, damn it, this is happening again.
Love it. Yeah. Now, speaking of relationships, this is a good segue to your relationship retreat that you two do. You just did, was it your second one or your third one? I know this is the first one outside the country.
Yeah, this will be our second one. Couples retreat, probably our 8th retreat in total.
Okay, you did a goddess retreat I'm getting the retreats. Okay, so when is the couples retreat?
The couples retreat is September 9th through the 13th in Ohio. We found a beautiful Tulum-inspired compound. So everyone who's ready to buy their land and run away and move to the woods, well, we found it, and we're going to go retreat there.
It's in Ohio.
It's in Ohio.
I know.
We're getting away.
Couples retreat in Ohio.
Yeah, Ohio is like Amish country. So you get out there, it's just kind people. The nature is breathtaking and beautiful. And it's the perfect setting, because a lot of times the reason why couples don't end up working out often is the fact that we get too caught up in life. We get too caught up in the to-do list. And we forget that the person sitting next to us is so damn important, and that sometimes we just need to get away. No kids, no work, no anything. And just remember again. Just remember, we fell in love with each other. There were sparks flying when we kissed and when we touched and when we thought about each other. And I couldn't stop thinking about you more. And it's being in that feeling. I mean, that's the feeling that we're all after. I mean, all the things we could possibly stack up in our lives, that feeling trumps them all. There's nothing compared to that feeling you get when you're in love, especially if you can sustain it. So what we saw is that there's so many couples that just need that extra time. They need to be away for a while and just allow themselves to be in a space with other couples who care about up-leveling. And then suddenly that magic just starts to happen. Just like at Unite the Light, what you guys put on was amazing, but what really made the event was the community.
Yeah.
The community being together, talking to each other, all the conversations that I have with people outside while we were waiting for the event to start, our in-between sessions. There was so much magic in that.
They become friends. We're already hanging out, mailing each other packages, going to each other's events. It's amazing what can happen.
So that's the thing, meeting other couples who are like, you know what, we're in this. Because it's hard to find that sometimes in life. It's hard to find kind of power couples.
Oh my
It is.
goodness.
It's very hard.
Kieran's here.
Kieran's coming.
Kieran came to 2 of my goddess retreats, healed her self-love, overcame alcohol issues, released that toxic, abusive, narcissistic engagement, and she's coming to our evolved couples retreat with her partner that she's manifested.
Yeah, we love you.
FJ, I mean, I love seeing our people here. So it is cool. We've had people come to the goddess retreat and say, do our manifestation rituals and say, I want love to find me at my door. And literally the person delivering the food to their door ended up being the person they proposed to at our evolved couples retreat. So it's
wow.
it's just the connection, the divine connection, when you are aware enough to see how we all are here to support each other, to lift each other up, and to help walk each other home. It's really cool to witness that unfolding and just see the amount of love and support that this community, the SJ community, and the Elevated Life community are creating to create homes for spirits to come to that need to feel safe, seen, and supported.
The light community, really.
Oh yeah.
Light and love community. So one thing a distinction you made to me when you first told me about it, like this is not a suffering couples, damaged couples repair couple relationship retreat. This is for things might be a little vanilla, or we wanted things to go to a higher level, but this is about sort of ascension relationships, right? Like you're opening the door to 5D relationships, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. We always say this is not for couples in crisis. And one of the couples came and said probably the most profound way to describe it. He said, I thought my wife and I were great. We love each other. We get along. We support each other. But this retreat showed us where our micro tears are. So it kind of just highlights where are those tools that are lacking in communication? Or is there a little bit of the past baggage being drawn in? Or do you know what my future vision is? And can you help support me? And have I communicated that to you so that you know what to do?
That is one of the coolest things that I realize, is because when you get, a lot of people don't have clarity in their lives. And that's why a lot of times they don't ever get anything worthwhile to them, is because they never really made a decision. Well, when you're with people for a week, when you're spending time in Ohio for a week with your loved one and really talking about what your goals are, really talking about what you want out of life,
no distractions,
really getting rid of whatever the old relationship, we spend quite a bit of time getting rid of the old relationships too, because that's so important to do. You don't want to bring the old baggage in because you're in a new relationship. It's a new person, new things are happening. And so it's so amazing to see people, when they dedicate that time, how they can get on the same page. So much about a relationship is making sure that you're on the same page. If you're both running in different directions, it's very hard to do anything. But the second that you're on the same page, it's like, wow, this is way easier. Why are we not doing this from the get-go?
I'm loving this community so much. Clarity is my favorite word. Yeah, clarity is your magic wand to the life that you want to live. No one's going to come do it for you. You have to make that decision.
Mm.
And how would you just find clarity?
Knowing what the fuck you want and doing it and not letting anything stop you. One of the most profound things that has been one of the teachings that have come from the Elevated Life is something that we're known for, is called the 7 or above rule. And this is kind of the philosophy that founded the entire Elevated Life. One Easter, he asked me, hey babe, how bad do you want to go to Easter today? It was raining. I was in my jams. I wasn't in the mood to do like the family thing. Love them, normally go. But he said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad do you want to go? And I said, let me think about that. Because I'm a Libra double Pisces. I got to feel it in my body. And so I'm like, it feels like a 6. And he said, well, we're adults and we get to decide the life we want to live. And I don't think we should do anything less than a 7. And so 7 or above rule was born. And what I now know over a decade later, and having thousands of students say, that's one of the most profound things you ever taught me. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, have you heard us talk? But the reason why it's so profound, and what I now understand, is that it's a tool for the logical mind to assess with numbers of our feelings on how do we show up. Are we doing this out of guilt, obligation, or like people pleasing? Or are we doing this because it's authentically what we want to do? So it's a great tool for both the logical and emotional body to decide, what type of life do I want to live? And so for me, the 7 or above rule is how I find clarity. Does it really make my nips hard? Or am I doing it because I think I'll get something on the other side of it,
Well, the only thing I'll add from my practice is I really feel if the heart's engaged, you're on the right path. If the heart's engaged, because the truth of the matter is the heart's not usually engaged very often. At least mine's, genuinely engaged. Like how many things are just mediocre, right? Yeah. Because there's
Chris, when we first met, we met on MySpace, and his Instagram.
MySpace.
Yeah, or no, we didn't even have Instagram back then. His AOL screen name was "Mediocrity is a Sin." So Cole, you nailed it, Psychic Wateki over there.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
That's hard to spell. Never got a message to him. So I love the clarity thing. I honestly was just talking to someone a day or two ago just about sort of this process of light working, right? Like the last 18 years, right? Literally for both of us. And it does seem like getting clear about yourself is step one. Like that's the very first thing that has to happen. And until you're clear about who you are and it resonates, then you have no effing clue where you're going. You have no clue what you're here to do. You don't know what your purpose is. You know, you have to know what your likes are and your dislikes, basically.
Yeah. And that's why although I've run a successful 6-figure salon for the last 20 years, I felt when I knew that I was supposed to share my message from behind the chair, and I've had it for 10 years, a whole outline protocol program on how to be a 6-figure stylist. But Spirit told me, you can table that because what you need to teach people right now is self-love. And so the first program that I ever created, and you've heard me talk about this, is Shine School, because you can't be a 6-figure stylist if you don't. Yeah, you can make the money, but you'll probably spend it or drain it, or you won't be happy because you don't love yourself. And so what I found to be true in all the women that I've coached is if you don't know who you are, what you stand for, your integrity, your beliefs, it's going to be really hard to run that 6- and 7-figure business. So I had to create Shine School. There was no, Spirit didn't give me an option. I was like, but I already have the outline. I could everyone wants to know how to make money. And they said, it doesn't matter. You need to teach them how to love themselves first so that then they can make all the money and do all the good things with it for themselves and for others.
I did the exact same path. I started out as an astrologer teaching how to manifest wealth and abundance. And very quickly it was self-love. Like it was just edged that way, via the universe. So you all have listed about 20 products tonight, and we put up barcodes for all of them. The audience is a little confused. Where should we start with you two? Like where do you start with your knowledge? Because clearly you have the knowledge.
Yeah. What I would recommend is signing up for the Elevated Life Club. There's already a discount code ready to go for you guys. It's a $7 buy-in, just like you guys paid $3.99 and got stuck for 4 years like me. You're like, I'm never quitting. We did the same thing. So you can sign up for the Elevated Life Club and access all 75 masterclasses on demand, yoga, breathwork, meditation right now for $7. Seriously, it's a steal. So that is where I would start. And everyone I have seen talk about the SJ Evolved code, that is actually for our couples retreat. We really wanted to just give back to this community and hold space for other light workers who are in partnership that want to do this work. And so we've created a $500 off coupon code for our Evolved couples retreat. So when you see the SJ Evolved code, that is actually for the couples retreat to save $500. It's $7. I don't know that we could discount it anymore for the Elevated Life. So you're already hooked up if you just go to the Elevated Life Club.
I think we're fixing it live on the screen right now. We're trying to. So SJ Evolved is for the couples retreat.
Yes.
$500 off. And how long is that retreat? How many days?
This is a 5-day retreat.
Okay. So it's workshops. I know that guys go off with Chris, the girls go off with you. Do you all switch too? I love that you both kind of like mama and papa bear them.
Yeah, it's a beautiful combination of alone time for yourself. I was just asking one of my friends that I've become friends with since the Evolved Couples Retreat. And I was like, what is the thing I'm not saying that people need to know? She said, we had day sex. I was like, oh,
whoa.
Okay.
Wow.
You have time to yourself to be intimate. So there's built-in workshops, hypnosis, but there's also time for play and relaxation and mingling time if you want to be alone with your partner or if you want to meet the other high-level couples. There's also massages, and we have a private chef coming in. It's high, the luxury is there, but
it's a Libra. I mean, are you kidding?
Yeah. Aqua's like, just give me a shovel and a cot.
Yeah, that's how I am.
Absolutely not happening.
Yeah, no, Brittney's
2 years to find the perfect venue where my full body, hearts engaged, hard nips, like this is the venue that we're taking couples to. And I patiently waited for 2 years. I was ready to book the next one, but I wasn't. It never struck a chord where I was like, this is it. So patiently waited for this one. So we're not sleeping in cots.
Yeah, well, honestly, I think you're also waiting for the collective conscious to want evolved couplehood. It's just now kind of clicked on now. Because people have, according to astrology, we've sort of gotten rid of our problems, and now we're interested in, instead of I, the idea of we, so yeah, you're right on, your timing is impeccable. Yeah.
And here in Ask, will Chef Kevin be there? He absolutely will. We have an amazing 5-star private chef that comes to all of our retreats with us. And we're just so excited to be able to offer a plant-based lifestyle for people who aren't usually open to that. They don't know, they've never experienced a plant-based lifestyle. So it's always fun to bring bodybuilders and the muscly men in, and they're like, what, plants, what? And they all leave in love with Chef Kevin.
Yeah, and like a lot of people, what about protein? What about it? Like Fionn is like a CrossFit competitor. She could, I'm sure,
She could bench press me
easily, handstand push-ups and stuff like that. So this is, I mean, plant-based is a lifestyle a lot of people more are figuring out is incredible. And it's so nice if you've never been introduced to it before to have it done by a private chef.
Yeah, if you want to talk to your past loved ones, you got to start eating plants. I mean, period.
Yeah, that's a whole nother episode. We'll have you on.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yeah, but good call. And the plants, I mean, plants are alive and animals are dead. I mean, the ones that we eat anyways. So that kind of says it all right there energetically. Fantastic. I feel like there's one other thing we're supposed to talk about. Chris, what are we promoting of your side, sir? I don't think we've, can someone get a session with you?
Absolutely can do a session with me. The other thing you can do if you want to start on just doing something that's free, hey, it's carmichael.com. I've got a link in there that will allow you to download a free relaxation meditation. I had a guy years ago that was big in the military, and his wife called me and said, I can't get him to sleep. He doesn't sleep. He's always stressed. I wake up sometimes and his head is just sitting and there's no pillow underneath it. He's so stiff that he's just holding his neck up the entire night. She's like, I've got to give him some relief. And so I actually created the session that's now recorded on this audio. And she ended up giving me flowers later and being like, dude, I don't know what you did, but that thing worked. Just teaching you relaxation. So for everyone who's got an overactive mind, everyone who has trouble sleeping at night, if you're an overthinker, a worrier, if you get anxious, this is the perfect thing. I send this to my clients typically a week before I see them for a session, just to get them prepped, just to allow them to experience what we're going to do so that they walk in knowing a little bit. I like to be comfortable when I'm doing stuff. That's why we do it over Zoom a lot of times. You can lay down in your bed if that's what you want to do. You can be comfortable.
When we do our lives in the Elevated Life Club, we always walk through 3 guided hypnosis sessions to integrate the training that we teach. And it's so funny because you'll see everyone just like lay down and then pop their heads back up on camera. It's like so cute, like people feeling comfortable and safe enough to relax and be with themselves.
Yeah. So that relaxation audio is there. I've got plenty of other audios. If you want, the audios that I recorded on there are the audios that I use for myself. Like these were the things that I created because I was like, well, some days you're like, I want to feel more confident. I want to feel that way inside. I have something going on the next day where confidence would be, there I go. I'm listening to that night. And I have different things that
we still listen to them on a nightly basis. And we've been doing that for well over 10 years, probably 15 years at this point. And we still listen to the audio. So I don't think you can never wear it out. I think it's always good to keep your mind in the right place and on track with what you want it to provide you.
Yeah, especially if you've been around, if you get around negative people sometimes, maybe your family's negative.
If you turn on the news.
You've been to some family events or just been out and you're like, you know what? I've dealt with a lot of stuff in my brain that I don't want to accept as true. I've been around a lot of people who I don't want to absorb their information, their energy. Using something like a hypnosis audio is one of those things where it just allows you to relax and allows you to just get that mindset back that makes you sharp again. It's like getting back on your own team. And I feel like that's why we use it. I mean, we use it regularly. It's just, like I said, it's such a simple tool that brings such amazing results.
And obviously someone could bring something complicated to you.
Totally.
And work multiple. It seems like you're ready for some puzzles.
I was gonna say the weirder the better, honestly.
Because a lot of things. I mean, I've done most stuff at this point. Like it's just I've had those sessions. So someone bringing something interesting is like, oh hell yeah, because some things aren't one session. Some things take a few more. Sometimes you got to do some forgiveness work, that's going to be a whole session by itself. Sometimes you got to go in and heal the inner child. That's going to be a whole session by itself. Just because that's going to be a lot of dirty work. That's going to be there's going to be a lot of digging in there. And it's so exciting when someone comes up with something like when Britt said, "Hey, my mom's had a stroke. Do you think you would help her?" I'm like, that's very fascinating. Absolutely. I mean, why not? Why not try it? And so, getting someone to the whole goal is to get a person ready for change. Like that's the whole strategy. That's what we ought to all be doing here. It's like when you ask something about like, well, how do I find love? How do I attract love? It's getting yourself ready for love. It's that readiness that always attracts it. It's that readiness for change, that readiness for love, that readiness for abundance. It's getting yourself ready and prepared to do whatever kind of work it might take. Because it's not always easy, but it is always worth it.
Readiness is a good word because it really is what you be is what comes. I mean, if you are ready, which means it should happen now. It's a very simple and obvious, but yet it took your whole career to get to. Yeah, it's profound. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you both. I'm not sure when we'll see each other again, but it'll be soon. Are you traveling? What's the story?
Yep. So I'm heading out to Arizona for the Powerhouse Women's Conference, and then we speak at the Podcast Summit in DC later in August, and then Couples Retreat in early September. Then I head down to Tampa to speak at a hairstylist retreat the week of my birthday, October 13th. And then we're free after that. So you've known we've just like moved our whole apartment. We've downsized like in half so that we could travel to go find our land and where we're going to put our little commune. So we're excited. I feel like after October, we're like free to roam around until we have to come back for the Goddess Retreat in Florida in February. But, you know, it'll open up a lot of opportunity. In fact, I think we'll be headed to Tennessee to do some exploring in those mountains, which is why I'm excited that Unite the Light is going to Tennessee next year.
I am too. It's a very clear vision from Spirit too. For some reason, I do think it's the mountains. I do think it's the crystals in the mountains. I do.
Mm-hmm. Certainly.
Oh my gosh, Daryl, you download the audio. Daryl, of course I remember our conversation. You're such a beautiful human being. Thank you for all the tips about Peru. I love you, brother.
I love it so much. Someone asked if we have things on Spotify. We have an entire podcast called The Elevated Life on Spotify, but we don't have any of your meditations. I think there's one episode we did of like a 15-minute meditation, but if you go to Chris's relaxation free meditation that they've been sharing, that's going to be, it's gold. That's going to be a good one. Mm-hmm.
Brilliant.
Community. Love her.
We consider you friends of the show, and we'd love to have you back. And maybe you can go live with us somewhere in the world that you end up at or something. That'd be really cool, like remotes in weird places. Just throwing ideas out there. We'd love to do it.
We would be so honored. And in fact, when I was listening to you talk about self-love, the 40 days of self-love, I would love to pull some of my oracle cards from my self-love deck throughout the process and be able to share that with the community if that's possible.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, let's find a way. Thank you. That'd be awesome. And here's the shine from the inside oracle deck.
One of 75 offers.
No, I'm teasing. I think it's wonderful. Actually, the two of you, Step 19 Aquarius is a manifester, and Brittney clearly is a manifester. You two have manifested a lot. But I also think that you had a very wise message at Unite the Light, which was you don't have to do it all. You know, that you've narrowed down to your favorites and things like that too. So you are experts in our field, I would say.
Thank you so much. It's been lifetimes of learning.
Lifetime.
I hear you, girl. We'll talk about it in heaven over a cocktail. All right, you two. I'll see you backstage. Hang out, okay, for a second?
Yeah.
We love you.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Love you. We love you. Yay. All right. Okay, everyone. Now I have to find my notes. Things are a little... And we will close the show. That was amazing. I mean, obviously... I had Brittney on in January. I'll tell you, it feels like I've known these people forever in my life, you know, first of all. And just what I've learned from Brittney and Chris, I did spend some time with them. I hung out in Austin before Unite the Light, about a month before. Got to know what they were doing. And they really are a cool modern couple. Not only a cool modern couple, but one's holding couples retreats for couples. So they're going to, clone that stuff and make more. Well, friends, as always, I want to point out that I have another show live on Mondays called LOL Leading Out Loud, starring Chris Reck, Scott Cruz, Devin Dewar, and myself. We're actually going to get a little heavy this week. We're going to talk about America in crisis. We're going to look at the presidential shooting. We're going to look at Biden's stuff. We're going to look at a lot of things going on right now, and we're going to look at it from a spiritual perspective and a psychic perspective. We're not going to get into politics. We're not getting into parties, but we are going to get deep on what's going on there spiritually. That is live at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. It is on all of the Sirius Joy networks. It is on all of the Stars networks, and it's also at the Leading Out Loud YouTube page as well. If you haven't noticed, we have a new website at SiriusJoy.com. We have remodeled the whole house. We are still moving in now. And we invite you to come. In fact, on the homepage, we have a little zodiac weather of where the weather is. It's animated in the googly eyes, and it tells you what time the step will change. It tells you for the next 4 days what you can expect as far as the weather and the astrology. That is free to the public. You don't have to be a subscriber for that. We also have the main transits going on every day. So, on the full moon, you'll see a blurb on when Mars sextiles Pluto. Mars tries a sextile Pluto, you'll see a blurb. So come on down to SiriusJoy.com. You don't have to subscribe right now, and there's going to be a lot more that happens. Now, one thing we do now are called Town Hall TV shows. We do Town Hall TV shows where we make our own community the studio audience, and we invite them all into a Zoom meeting, and we talk about a topic. Last week, we did the self-study hall with Robbie Hunt. And she was working on your natal moon, secrets of the natal moon, and what the natal moon can tell you in your chart. You can watch that right now if you sign up for Serious Joy for just $3.99 at SeriousJoy.com. It's a great show. Robbie's an amazing teacher, and Serious Joy just gets better and better every week. I'm so proud of our creation as much as I'm proud of Brittney and Chris's. Sharing is caring. We always like to say, please share Namaste Today Live with your friends and family, or maybe share ASTRO MINGLE, or maybe share a horoscope that comes out on Tuesday. Because honestly, I think the only way we're going to get out there is if people who you trust say, hey, try this. This is trustworthy. So please share. We also have a Facebook group if you want to hang out on Facebook. It's at seriousjoy.club. You can also advertise your astrological or spiritual businesses there. We have a couple of rules: no politics, and everything must be compassionate. It's a really nice club. I want to do a special thank you to the Knights and to Joyce for watching over that club now for several years. You're doing a great job. The club feels so good. Also, if you'd like to follow us on any of our social media, because we're everywhere, go to seriousjoy.social and you'll learn more about that. And if you'd rather listen instead of watch, we do turn this into an audio-only podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts. I want to say special thanks to our executive producer, Diane DeStefano, our casting coordinator, Nina. One day I'll put her last name in there. Our director, Adam Turner. Thank you, sir. Love you much. And my teaching staff and faculty at Serious Joy: Kristen Ryder, Devin Doer, Robbie Hunt, Joe Zammett, Gwen English, Daiki Okamoto, and Heather Exposito. I love how that always ends. And a special thanks to our super friends. These are the people who come and support us every week. Daryl Blankenship, my soul brother. Sydney, I saw you. Princess Coffee Bean, Jill Louise, Margot Melia, Lori Ship, Nikki Anderson, Librin Lauren, Experimental Elemental, Erica, Kat Ryder, Neptune Girl, Jamar, Christine Kelly, Sydney, and always Iggy and Nitu. Love those names. We love you. Well, friends, it's been an interesting week. I for one am saying I'm happy Leo's coming next Monday. I'm going to light up and shine. I have been in the clouds of the 12th house, and I've been basically feeling not lost this last month, but not really focused either. It's been a tour of emotion. But when we come back next week, we're going to be in the self-love revolution on Friday. So remember, over this next week, create that emotional home for yourself and then raise the self-love. Until next week, I love you. Live, love, be. Audio Jungle.